What up guys, today we're going to be talking about How Strong is the Beyonder Part 2. Now in the last video I was hoping to finish and conclude all of the feats throughout one video, but there was too many feats and there was too much story of him for me to get through in one video. So I'm going to try to finish it in this one. Now starting off with this video, the first feat that we see is right after the second Secret Wars event where we thought, the Beyonder was dead. Apparently he wasn't dead. The energy that exploded, that got transported into his universe, that created like a new Big Bang, basically brought him back, and he basically just comprised of the universe once again, but this time with things in that universe that he is a part of now at that point. And as they went there, it was Doctor Doom, Johnny Storms, and the Thing, and then a new Fantastic Four member that went with him as he showed them what he found. And he found him, and he needed their help to ask something from the Beyonder himself. And as they go there, he says, not just the sun, Johnny Storm, the Beyonder is everything in this universe. The sun, the planets below us, the people on the planet, everything. So intense this is for me, I've got to put it out of my mind. And they also said, he says, I've held the solar forces which would destroy my solar system, but there are other ways. So as they confronted him, Doom obviously needs their help for some reason. He needs something from the Beyonder, so he contacts them, and then he finds it and finds out that he's comprised of the universe now, just like before, but this time there's things in it. So he's comprised of the suns, the planet, the people, and everything in it. And then he had an elite force that was going to destroy the solar system, but he held them back so he could get back to his physical form. And as he did, he pulls up on them. They just want to talk, but he's not willing to talk at all. As he says, I have more power in the smallest electron on my little finger than you have in your entire galaxy. So that is insane. We know he can wipe out galaxies, but he's that powerful apparently that even a tiny electron, which is microscopic, in his pinky is more than enough power to destroy a galaxy or the entire galaxy. That is crazy of you ask me. The fact that he has enough power, and not just his pinky, but a tiny electron there that's equivalent to a galaxy is crazy. But after this, we see these two beings that just show up, these two new beings, and as they show up, they basically pull up on the Beyonder, and they're trying to get him to stop. They actually attack him, and the Thing says, hey, Holocaust, did you kill the Beyonder? He said, nothing can kill the Beyonder. Unfortunately, he can only die. Oh, we have watched a far Beyonder. No, what is this nonsense? No, this I believe. You have watched you from far Beyonder, and we saw the error taking root in your mind. You call this an error? I don't err. So what happened was, these two new beings came, pulled up on him, and started attacking one of them. The Thing thought he killed him. He's like, no, I can't kill him. You really can't kill him. He's kind of pretty much immortal. And then he's like, I was hiding from you, and I was able to analyze what you were doing and everything. And Beyonder was like, no way, you can't do that. There's no way you could do that. How could you be that powerful? But then we see more of his power as Beyonder, since he's comprised of the universe, he's grows big, but then also this creature turns big himself to match him. And then they start fighting. As they fight, they start firing attacks at each other. Beyonder attacks him, says, did you feel the universe shifting when you struck me with the subparticle resonant disruptor effect? Because the universe is all me. As I was sparking into your after a time Earth, but I evolved all the way. Evolved it all. I have no limits. No one can stop me. So he got attacked by the other guy. The other guy hit him, and he felt it. But whatever damage he takes, whatever damage he feels, his universe feels it too. So he's talking about did you feel the universe shaking from the damage you done onto me? And the fight progresses on more after that as the attacker attacks him, and he's known to be as the Shaper, and I can do more. Transact on power levels unimaginable to you, power enclosing everything. So now this new being with this other being called the Shaper are starting to attack him. Well, the other guy is just not doing anything, but they both came for him. But this guy in particular started to attack the Beyonder and told him that, hey, you might have thought you were the most powerful being in the universe. You're clearly not. You are just overly mistaken, and you're just being cocky. I'm actually way more powerful than you by unimaginable levels. So kind of like how he was unimaginably more powerful than, somebody like the Molecule Man. He's more unimaginably more powerful than the Beyonder himself. So that is like the craziness between the difference of power. Because before this, Ricky was saying he's the most powerful, and from what he was shown through his feats, he did seem to be like one of the most powerful beings and unbeatable. But clearly, that's not the case. So after this, later on, as the fight starts to die down because Molecule Man shows up, he starts talking about. He says, "It's pointless you because you weren't able to fully desire your desires. You were able to kill me before my friend, the Molecule Man, was drawn to me by unconscious will to allow me to prevail. I just didn't want them to kill you, but I will stop you from giving power to Doctor Doom." So there you have it. It is stated that he would have died. So yes, is the Beyonder strong? Yes, he is. He's 100% strong and powerful, but that doesn't mean he's unbeatable. I know the last one they said he was. Some people might argue that that's a retcon. I just think that that it might be a retcon, but I think more so is just adding more to the story because he might have assumed he was infinitely powerful, but that doesn't mean he was. There could have been more of a reason, and they have like. We just have to usually wait before we just make those judgments and like wait for the information because they can explain it themselves. So as they go on and say, you have always intrigued me. Think who else would you be with friends of confidence and everything very well. Somewhere in the negative zone, the mad conjunction of the realms around. This is a lightless universe. They dwell there. One has ever seen them, no one has ever shall, but they see us, all of us, they all wish us, they grant us to grow to become as they are. You understand this is accurate to describe them, beings who do things on chronological order, in chronological order that transcend all such labels. You're talking like you're such an insignificant to them. So now the Shaper is talking about some godly beings, some unimaginably cosmic powerful beings that surpass even them and that are on the highest threshold of transcendence. And he's saying that it's above them. And even the things like you're making it sound like that you're nothing compared to them. And that's what he's trying to say. So now we're seeing more levels of power that Beyonder is stronger than Molecule Man, but the Shaper and the other guy, they're both stronger than him by infinite levels. And now there's these other beings that are even more higher than them, and it's the Beyonders. We all heard more about the Beyonders in the, I guess it was in the, I forgot what it was called, the Incursion event, but it was when the universes were colliding, and even the Living Tribunal got killed by one. So yeah, or I don't think it was one; it was like multiple of them, but he got killed by them. So that's how powerful they are. They're powerful enough to kill the Living Tribunal, and I'm guessing they're the same Beyonders that they're mentioning when they're talking about these higher level beings. But they go on to explain a little bit more, and it becomes even more crazy and impressive what we hear. So it goes on to say, let us simply say that a convenience that some distant time there became aware of the universe taking the earth. They could never enter the universe or any universe outside their own. They are so beyond us that they must operate entirely through agents. How many of us in this universe have learned that that the earth has a special combination of qualities which breeds superior beings? Though many of us have sought to learn why, the answer remains unknown to us. But in our distant past, the Beyonders determined to find it. Well, I'm begging to see the light. Then the Beyonders contacted the alien race called the Noeli through a radical cube. Continues the Shaper, ignoring the Beyonder. The Beyonders offered them gold to create a gamma preserve on Earth. Many have asked why, but the answer is apparently so. This is important. So they're explaining, like I said, more about the cosmology. These Beyonders were godly beings that were around forever. They were analyzing the Earth. They found out the Earth has a special combination of humans that creates superior beings, like I stated in the other one. In the first part, where the Beyonder was explaining to the guy, he stated that humans have a high potential to reach up to the levels of power of even conceptual beings. And the one who had the highest potential was Owen Reese, who became the Molecule Man, and he was able to surpass all the other conceptual beings in the multiverse and become one of the most powerful characters in all of Marvel himself. And this was once again explained that that's the case, and they just want to know why. So even though they're really powerful, they're not all knowing, and they're above these guys. So then they pretty much ask Doom to explain more because he knows some stuff. So he says, "We know you know how the cosmic cube is created. Doom, tell the others. When a scientist genius recognizes the possibility of gaining such power as this cube provides. The scrolls and advanced ideas and mechanics have done this far. A certain force field can be generated, and sometimes within a window of 32 years and 44 months. By calculation, a rift opens in reality and energy slips through to fill the field and transcendent powers which grant the cube's wielder its every wish and desire. The energy is evidently a shaper of matter because it instantly shapes force fields into a perfect cube if it can. So what he explains is interesting because now he's talking about a cosmic cube, and it leads us down to an interesting new ideas and thoughts throughout the mythos and lore from Marvel itself and the Beyonder and how he works and operates in like the power system. So basically they're talking about the cosmic cube, which I've talked about before and Doom has also used before. That's why they're asking him or telling him to say it, because they know that he's come into contact with it, so he knows how it works. So apparently the way the cosmic cube works, and apparently there's more than one, but what happens in every 32 years and 4 months, there's a rift that opens up in the reality, and as it opens up, there's some energy that slips through, and as it slips through, it starts to form this energy barrier, and as it does, it turns into a perfect cube. Once when it turns into that perfect cube, it turns into a cosmic cube, which there are, like I said, many of. And once when it turns into that cosmic cube, whoever gets to get contacted with it, like how Doom did, they can get the power of being able to wish whatever they desire to have and use it. That's why he was able to surpass Odin. That's why he was able to drain Galactus of his power and do all that stuff. Though in that video I did state that that the cosmic cube is only universal at best because of what it was shown, but this shows a little more context to it, and it kind of disproves my argument in that one, which I will get into that, but I do want to go on a little bit more because they explain it a little bit more and it gets a little more interesting. So as they go on, the thing says the cosmic cube, you can do anything with a cosmic cube. Yes, it gives ordinary men the power to be extraordinary. First, the Beyonders learned through evolution how it led to greater intelligence. Then they created their own intelligence. Then they gave intelligence the chance to control its own evolution. Evolution is key, Kubek, and I should know because we are cosmic cubes who evolved. I am the Skrulls cosmic cube, and he's Ames of Earth's cosmic cube. I am, however, the Beyonder, and I don't like this conversation. So as they went on, they said, yes, these cubes have pretty much infinite power. They can do whatever the hell they want. And what happened was, first, the Beyonders were trying to learn about evolution and the Earth and all these life forms and stuff. As they were learning about life and the universe itself, they then created their own intelligent life, which was most likely the Beyonder and these guys too. These two guys are also created from them, and as they created them to also evolve like humans and adapt, and as they adapted, they were like these perfect cosmic cubes. And the shaper is the Skrulls cosmic cube that was created, so each planet has their own, and he's the one that AIM created for on Earth, so he's Earth's cosmic cube. So that's what we find out. That's the cool, new, interesting story, and Beyonder's not liking that, and it leads to a reason of why he doesn't personally himself like the idea of that, but it's pretty interesting. So that means the Beyonders first saw the evolution of reality, saw how it worked, created the cosmic cubes that became to these life form beings, evolved them to the highest order, and then once they evolved, they became these cosmic cubes, and they have their own for each different planet, and they go there to find people to come into contact with it. Once they come into contact with it, they can unleash their true desires on whatever they want. And Doom goes on to say the Beyonders have created a force which powers cosmic cubes. It goes through a rift in realities when those who wish to collect the forces are ready. But when Owen Reese had a ludicrous accident, he evidently tore a hole into reality where no force field was waiting in this side of the trapping the unleashed power. The field should have been there wherever the force which came through the rift did to shape the field I did. But I was not a field. Still, I absorbed part of the energy which came through the rift. I did not become a six-sided, though I did become a component of great power, still not quite up there with eternity or tribunal, and neither are you, though you think you are. I almost destroyed the Fantastic Four the first time I attacked them, but from that day on, it began to look at that feeling. So what he's basically saying is that. As Doom went to explain, he explains that Owen Reese also got the power from a cosmic cube, but just in a different, unconventional way. He's saying that usually it comes into reality where there's a rift, so the rift has to open up, then there's like a barrier, and then as it comes, it takes the barrier and then it reshapes it and turns into a cube. So it needs that barrier to turn itself into that. But when Owen Reese was doing his experiment, he basically interrupted that process and actually created a portal or a rift where there wasn't a barrier for it to shape into a form. So usually it's the barrier to shape into a form, but it didn't have it. It had Owen Reese there. So instead of turning into one, it went directly to the thing that opened it, which was him and his experiment. So instead of that energy be transferred into the field to turn into a cube so somebody else can get the power of it, the rift was open in a place where there wasn't the field there to wait for it to be formed. It was only the Molecule Man, so when he got hit by it, he got powered up by it, and he gained some power. He didn't gain all of its power, but he got some of its power. And he said, well, I'm not a field, so I couldn't be changed or morphed. I could get the power, but I couldn't get the full scope of it, and I didn't turn six-sided at all, but I did gain enough tremendous power from it. And then he also states that he has great power, but not as great as Eternity or the Tribunal. Eternity is a representation of the universe or the multiverse, so I'm guessing he's going to be talking about the multiverse because that's the more powerful version of Eternity, and the Tribunal, which is the living tribunal that judges the multiverse as a whole, right? Now, he judges the multiverse, and I used to think, I was like, it's really weird because we saw in the other story events when we did the Galactus one, that there was a lot of times where he was struggling, he got absorbed by what's his name? He got absorbed by Thanos when he had the heart of the universe. He also got killed by the Beyonders. So the Beyonders are quite powerful. I guess they're beyond. Once again, without that pun, they're beyond his level of power. It makes sense. He's saying that, hey, look, the cosmic cubes and stuff were created by the Beyonders. You were also created by them. I got my power from that same system, so you and me are interlinked because of that. But even though we are powerful, there's still people that are leagues above us, and we're not above Eternity or the Tribunal at all, because these are beings well above us and stuff. And they go on to, it goes on as the Beyonder says, the pure force peered through the rift with no form to guide it. The pure force of this universe to safety is a desire. The pure force was a gift of the Beyonders. And then they go on as they say, and you, Beyonder, are the greater part of that sentient force which came through that rift. Lacking a constant vessel, a cosmic cube has no desires because of cosmic cube is complete itself. It shapes the world with others' dreams. It satisfies others' desires. You have desire for you are unnatured, and you will lose it, but you will become that doomed desire so much. You'll become whole. But I can't give this all up. I found all a form all on my own. Evolution is key, big brother. You thought you were everything, but nothing ever can be little brother. So basically now what they're saying is he finds out that he was also a part of the cosmic cube. Him and Molecule Man have been truly interlinked, like I said. Why they're interlinked, what happened was Beyonder is actually a cosmic cube. He was supposed to come out as a perfect cosmic cube like these two guys. He was supposed to be fully evolved, but he didn't come out that way because of the Molecule Man doing that experiment. That's why he said, so you say you created me? And he's like, no. And he's like, I don't know and stuff. Technically he did, but he didn't. He was already going to be created, but he also did create him. He would have been created as the perfect cube and a different being, but since he took some of the power, he kind of turned into a depowered and de-evolved state, which is what we got from the Beyonder. So he could have been more powerful and have been a different being altogether. But since he did that, Owen Reese did that, he basically created him into this version of his power in Beyonder, and then also absorbed some of that power in him. So whenever he was using that power against Beyonder, he was basically using Beyonder's own power against him. So he doesn't have the power of molecules. He basically has the Beyonder's power where he can control whatever he wants. But they also go on and say that you can't be everything. Nothing is everything. We all have a cosmic order and structure that we're, put in place. We can't just say we're above one or the other. So they're trying to put them more in formal placing and shit. And now he's talking about like, well, we need to connect and stuff. So after this, they do connect. Both Molecule Man and Beyonder combined to become the perfect cube, because that's what he was actually supposed to be in the first place. He was supposed to be a perfect cosmic cube. He never became one due to the fact that it was interrupted in the middle, and because of the experiment just messing with it in general. But after this, we have the Shaper saying the universe existed only because the Beyonders willed it to, and the Beyonder is no more. The great power of his multiverse must have foreseen this ultimate end, and so they let his life proceed. That is the most amazing thing I've ever saw. Look, dude is the first, the cube is born given a muck. So, yeah, what happened here is saying, once he became the cube, his dimension is breaking down. But it's not just a universe, it's also a multiverse. So he became a multiverse of his own. And without him, is falling apart. But the people that were in there, since they're connected, knew this was going to happen. And they're kind of like okay with it. They're like, you know what? It is meant to be. It's meant to happen. But, you know, that's just how it is. And then they transition over to the Beyonder and Molecule Man combined as the perfect being that they became. And as we finally see now, the physical form of the combination of the cube, it's actually in the shape of a woman, and it goes on to say the ground and dimensions floods with space-time, floats in conscious repositioning the mango life forces, the two beings once known as the Molecule Man and the Beyonder. Now its incubation period over the biocosmic forces entry erupts. The essence of Owen Reese, no longer needed, is sent hurling through the void and a new destiny, and that is the tale of another time. For now, the universe itself may tremble at the tragedy of a new being of power. So, once they combined, it had to take some time to use up all the power and evolve. Because, like they said, they were perfect cubes. That's why they never desired. But he was imperfect, so he desired. But now that he is full, he has changed and he is morphed. And as he has morphed, it used up the energy, and I guess it took the power from like. Molecule Man, and it shot him out. So since Molecule Man was still a person, whereas the Beyonder was a form of energy, the Beyonder changes completely with the cube and is evolved, but Molecule Man is not needed, so he's sent back to his home world. And then there's another story that talks about him later on. But it's weird, even though you would assume that it takes all the Molecule Man's power, apparently it didn't, because the Molecule Man does later on still have his own power. It's different. But we also do see that now the Beyonders turn into a female figure that is a new power here. So we now see this female figure of the former Beyonder, and we get to see her name now and what's happening. So as we go on, we see it says, beyond the walls of the third dimensional space, there are beings who are transcended levels of power unimaginable to the minds of humankind. Kubak and Cosmos are two beings of power. Our next series of investigations into the nature of the existence of Cosmos will occur at this juncture of space-time, the planet Earth, by the microcosmic scale of which sure things are measured. There are but minor, omnipotent, small in power, and slight in age. So he's stating, we have the names, his name is Kubak, hers is Cosmos. They basically now have new evolved power. Kubak is supposed to be helping out Cosmos to understand, because he's been evolved for quite a while and Cosmos just got newly the power, so now he needs to show her how it works, and they are going to be doing research. Whereas the Beyonder was basically doing whatever. Now as Cosmos, their job is just to observe and try to understand for the Beyonder's sake, to relay back information to them. And them scaling, like the Earth is the biggest potential, and then they're talking about like microscopic, because they're saying they are but minor, omnipotent, small in power, and slight in age. I don't know if they're talking about the humans or themselves, because there are more omnipotent beings that are more powerful than them themselves. So as they come to Earth, they want to check out the Fantastic Four, because they're a main staple in the Marvel universe, so they want to see what's so special about them. They say we have to come to attempt to understand of the multiverse's higher powers have ascended a special destiny to inhabit of the planet. Perhaps it's merely this is the currently entry point for the nexus of all realities into three-dimensional space, the trans-dimensional gateway in the Florida Everglades, whose guardians in the Mad Thing perspective So yeah. So now they're analyzing them. They want to see them. They're saying that the higher cosmic beings have a lot of interest in the humans, and they want to know why. So they want to understand. And Cosmos kind of suggests that this might be a nexus to all of the realities in dimensional spaces in the third 3D universe or the multiverse. So like Earth, kind of like how in DC. The Earth Prime is the most important thing. If you destroy Earth Prime, you destroy the multiverse. This is probably like the same way. And then we go on after that event as we go to the Celestials. And as we go to the Celestials, now Quebec is showing Cosmos one of the Celestials and showing her more of their journey and what they need to do. And as he's talking to her, she says, he's talking about how to get the knowledge from them. And she says, plucking their knowledge from seeking from their mind should be a simple affair. Have a care, young one. Our power is nothing compared to that of the Celestials. But Quebec, do we not possess infinite power? Could we not warp our laws of time and space at our whim? Yes, our mighty is infinite, but their levels are infinite. Are infinity. So now what is happening when they're trying to journey into the mind of this Celestial? Cosmos suggests that, hey, why don't we just peer right into it since we're really powerful? And he's like, we can't do that. It's not that simple, especially with a Celestial. And she replies, but we're infinite. Can't we just warp all space and time, do whatever? And he said, yes, we might be infinite, but there are levels to infinity. So he is basically talking about like set theory or alpha null, as we've seen a lot in these debate battles. And he's basically saying that, hey, there's levels of infinity. We are infinite, but they are infinite leagues above us too. And he's going to start explaining more about Celestials because there is a little bit of confusion with the Celestials and the Beyonder. As Cosmos goes on to say, preposterous. Infinity is by its very nature unsurpassable. Consider that there's a set whole number of 1, 2, 3, and 4, so on. It's not is it not infinite? Obviously, then consider there's a set called numbers of 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on. As long as that. Why is that infinity? Of course, half of infinity is still infinity, and the same would be true of the set of odd numbers, of course. Both sets are infinite, yet the sets of whole numbers contest both subjects, and therefore twice as large as either subset alone. So yep, once again, he's giving set theory. He's explaining through prime number, or just going through completely 1, 2, 3, and then going even numbers. So he's saying that there's an infinite amount of even numbers, there's an infinite amount of odd numbers, and then there's an infinite amount of numbers in general, right? And with the infinite amount of numbers, they're all forms of infinity, but you can divide them in different ways. So half of that infinity, but the evens of that infinity is still infinity. But the total sum of the numbers that include that the evens and the odds is twice that infinity. So it's double layered infinity. That mathematically checks out for me personally. I don't like that, like logic wise, like mathematic wise, I think it's fine, but like power scale wise, logic wise, it's a little iffy. But that's how they run with it in Marvel. And as he goes on, he says, thus are the demonstrated of the two levels of infinity. There are, of course, infinite numbers or more, and towering above this, the being possessed of a transdimensional level of power and many orders of magnitude beyond our own. So he's pointing at the Celestial, saying, hey, they are multiple, and I mean multiple times beyond our own power. So they're like leagues and levels above us. So there's a little more to it. And then we get a little bit more talking as the story progresses. So after that, we transition to the next scene where they're pretty much trying to get into the mind of the Celestial now. And Quebec warns Cosmos that once when they get into there, they will be judged by the Celestial, and since the Celestial, scales above them by infinite levels, that they will be, if they judge them and say that they aren't right for whatever reason, they'll end up getting destroyed and obliterated. So this is a very dangerous journey for them to be traveling on. And they're just trying to prepare to get there to see. So yeah, they can destroy them if they wanted to. But after this, we have Cosmos talking about, the Celestials and how she just can't really believe that the Celestials are this powerful due to the fact that when she was the Beyonder, she did attack them. And she brings it up. She says, yes, the Celestial homeworld. I recall it from my previous incarnation as the Beyonder when I defeated many of them simultaneously after I threatened to destroy the universe. Nonsense. They created the illusion in your mind to test your true intentions. You will find that where the Celestials are concerned, even your memories can be deceptive. they could have easily crushed you. I once did, but they chose to lift your natural life cycle process, at least to this point, for reasons unknown. What is this? Imagine of a living black galaxy which collapsed into a newborn celestial. If this is how celestials are born, the concept of a homeworld is irrelevant proof they are created the illusion for you. So this is very important because, like I said, when we were seeing the Beyonder doing crazy stuff, we just finally now got new confirmation of higher levels of power. We found out that the Beyonder was an incomplete cosmic cube, and then the complete form is the most evolved version of them. And when Beyonder was fighting against Kubak, he was the evolved cube, just like Cosmo is now, and he couldn't beat him because he was a higher level of infinity, whereas he was an incomplete level of infinity. And then when he lost to Kubak and combined with Molecule Man to create Cosmos now. Cosmos has reached up to that level too, but even with this level, they're still below the Celestials by quite a bit. And a lot of people's minds, especially after the first video, you're going to be like, well, it doesn't make sense since he literally bodied them easily. They couldn't do anything, right? But this explains a lot more. And also, this changed my perception on the Celestials quite a bit too. Just like in when it came to the Cosmic Cube, I used to think the Cosmic Cube was just universal because of, when I was doing my Galactus series on how strong is Galactus, and the Cosmic Cube was mentioned, they only mentioned the destructive level and the reality warping level to a universe size. Nothing really past that. So when I saw Doom using it, I was like, it just seems only universal level, and all the other items did too. But I will admit I was wrong, seeing as how these living forms of the Tesseract, how powerful, or not Tesseract, that's what they call it in the Marvel movies, but the Cosmic Cubes they are ridiculously powerful. They are definitely beyond universal, seeing as how even Beyonder is an incomplete version of it, was literally threatening the entire multiverse. And then you have Molecule Man, who has even more of a fraction of that, incomplete version of the Tesseract Cosmic Cube within him, and is still that powerful to manipulate and destroy the multiverse. Is just insane the amount of power it has. So I was wrong in that, I'll admit that. And same thing with the Celestials, because every time I saw the Celestials, they didn't seem that OP. I mean, Galactus was able to beat them. Franklin Richards, obviously he's powerful, but he was casually bodying them like it was nothing. There was a couple of few other characters. We also found out Null beat them. So we see so many characters beating them casually, and they seem kind of like jobbers. And that's what's the common consensus when it comes to the Celestials, is whenever they try to show a certain character that's decently powerful, they just body the Celestials. So I didn't assume they were that strong, or the other construct beings, because the other construct beings are above them too. But I didn't think they're that powerful due to the fact that every time there was a universal level threat, like with the Infinity Gauntlet, or with the Heart of the Universe that was only threatening one universe that they stated specifically, they couldn't handle the threat. So it just felt like they weren't above that. But seeing as how crazy Beyonder and Molecule Man was, and then how crazy the Kubak and Shaper were, and how powerful they are, and then they're staying still, the Celestials are leagues above them and higher levels of infinity, it gives me the thought and idea that or feeling that they're way more powerful than they let on. So this does make sense. So what happened was Beyonder thought he was beating them, but they actually knew that they were way above him. They were just playing with him. They tricked him by putting an illusion in his mind that he was beating them, just to see who he is and how he runs, so they could understand him more. So now this kind of makes me change my perception of them, and I'm going to admit 100% I was wrong about them. I thought they weren't that powerful, but I guess they are. Also, now this runs into question. How come every time when they have these other universal level events, they couldn't do anything about it? Now, I'm going to just assume at this point that every time that the Celestials get beaten by those type of characters, unless they've shown to be well above that, even above Beyonder and Molecule Man, which some characters have reached, I think, at this point, but they have to be well above Beyonder and Molecule Man, because Molecule Man and Beyonder couldn't even harm the Celestials. They're not even close to the Celestials, so the character has to be well above them, so I'm not going to give them that. Some people might say, well, does this mean Galactus is stronger since he was able to fight them off? I don't think so. I think the Celestials were going easy on him, and maybe even Franklin Richards, and they weren't really going all out. They were trying to test them to see, and they weren't trying to destroy everything. They were just trying to see where they are, because remember, in the end of the universe, Galactus was supposed to become he was supposed to usher in the ending, and then Franklin Richards was supposed to become the new Galactus. So I think they had a very big place in the cosmic order of things, so they were just testing them out. So I will say this: no, this does not upscale Galactus, because Galactus could not handle universal level threats, and the Celestials, we've seen that they held back against the Beyonder, and it's to argue that the Galactus would have to be stronger than the Beyonder, because they would easily be able to beat him, and Galactus has never shown the power on the levels of the Beyonder or Molecule Man. So that still goes with what I said with him, but the Celestials, I will admit once again I was wrong. I'm going on this quite a bit because I think it's very important to mention it, because it does, it puts the place in order of these stuff, like the conceptual beings, and clearly those beings are fucking around and just trying to see with these people, because they don't see them as really a threat, so they don't really need to. So yeah, the Celestials, anytime we see them getting beat, it depends. It depends. I'm going to say mostly is going to be them fucking with people's minds and making them think that they're beating them up. The only times I will say that they're beating them up is if the character is stronger than Molecule Man and Beyonder by quite a bit. There are leagues above Beyonder and Molecule Man, which still not that many characters are, then you can argue that. But if it's not, then you can't say that. I don't know if Franklin Richards is that much more powerful, but I can't really say that he's on the level of the Celestials. And also, for being so powerful, they get born from just black galaxies getting destroyed. I'm guessing they're like a black hole kind of galaxy type of thing. So it's basically galaxies die and then they get reformed, and that's what creates them. Which is weird, because these guys can destroy more than just multiverses. They're infinite leagues above that, but they're created from galaxies. I feel like they should have been created from like the birth of whole big bangs if they want to be that powerful, but whatever. So we go on to the next, as he goes to explain more about them. He says, yes, impressive, spectacular, and yes, these are but a tiny fraction of the tales told of the genesis of the space gods. The Galactus Valorous 6 theorized that the Celestials' tales come from outside the multiverse entirely, perhaps from the realm of those unknown Beyonders who spawned you and I. The Valkyrism was a star construction with leaves with philosophies and stuff. Okay, so what they're saying is now, there's many theories on the Celestials. They don't really know, but there are stories about these beings being outside of the multiverse itself, probably in the domain of the Beyonders created them. So they're probably below the Beyonders and created by the Beyonders, which would make sense, because remember, the Beyonders bodied fucking the Living Tribunal, who should be way above them. He should be the highest pinnacle as the conceptual beings. And like I said, also the other conceptual beings that were getting beaten, I'm pretty sure they were fucking around too. I think they were a lot more powerful, but I think it makes sense that the Beyonders beat them, because it's been explained quite a bit that the Beyonders are well above everybody else. So the Beyonders most likely created them. They created the Cosmic Cubes. They created the Beyonder himself. Molecule Man got his powers from them, and they ended up some point later on killing the Living Tribunal somehow, because they're so powerful, and they created them. I'm gonna probably at some point do a full coverage of that event, because that event seems to have a lot of important story plot points and feats there. So after this, we go on and we find out that apparently that Celestials is a survivor of a previous universe, and as this world devours Galactus, and that the next universe to follow, our own Galactus, having fulfilled his desired tiny cycle, become a Celestial himself. So they're saying right here now, he's explaining more about why Galactus kind of looks like them and is kind of similar to them. He is kind of he's the devolved state of them. So yes, Galactus at now is not on the Celestials' level of power. So he's not that powerful. But when he does die, he will reach that level of power. So he will actually be... so I guess you can argue at some point Galactus will be, beyond multiversal levels of power. But as he is right now as the World Devourer, he is not. He's at most universal or below that. But once he becomes a Celestial, he gets leagues above that. So when we had the story event with Franklin Richards, what was happening was there was the passing of power. So Franklin Richards was going to be the last person of his cycle of his universe when it died, and it went to the next cycle. At that point, he would have became the new Galactus, and Galactus would have became a new Celestial. So Galactus would have leveled up himself. And some people will say, well, would that make Galactus above Franklin Richards since he's becoming the new Galactus? No, I think Franklin Richards would be just a way more powerful version of Galactus. I think they have different power levels depending on who. But after this, we go back to them talking again, as Kubrick says, reality is not as true or false as propositions, it's harmonious as mosaic of infinite possibilities, the marriage of will and potentiality, contemplating the unknown intellect, bring forth new from the non-existence. So sorry for that, guys. So what he's saying is that reality, it's not just about simply about, oh, this is what's allowed and what happens, like, science is like, this is firm, like how things work, and there's no way it can go outside these bounds, right? It's saying that there's no bounds to the universe and the possibilities of these other universes. So there could be an infinite amount of possibilities due to how much potential and what we could be having. So this kind of also leans more into, like I said, into the case of the Marvel multiverse being infinite. So then we go next to a very important scene where we see the Living Tribunal talking to Eternity, and I think it's Lord Order and Master Chaos or whatever, and he's talking to them, and he says, beyond space and time, a 16-dimensional domain in the junction of the multiversal superspace, here present so far beyond the mortal comprehension that they can only be perceived through a flitter of a human's perception and symbology, perceiving the process by which the fabric of existence is woven. Eternity, Lord Chaos, Master Order enter the presence of the Living Tribunal. In eons past, we permitted an experiment which placed the powers of the infinity in the hands of mortals by allowing minute bits of energy from the universe of the Beyonders to slip through. The resulted in the creation of those devices called the cosmic cubes of neo-omnipotent beings, a power which grew from at this junction of space-time and onwards on the Earth. So this is impressive and important for a few reasons. We get more explanation with these beings, and the dimension or the realm that they do the judging. Usually, we see with the Living Tribunal. Apparently, it's stated to be not only beyond space and time, which we've heard here quite a bit, but it's also stated to be a 16-dimensional domain junction in the multiversal superspace. So it means that this dimension is most likely 16-dimensional. So we're also talking about we live in the third dimension, fourth dimension is time, fifth dimension, sixth dimension, seventh dimension. So they reside in the 16th dimension. So and DC Mxyzptlk is the fifth dimensional nymph, and then I'm pretty sure Perpetua and her children are the sixth or seventh dimensional. So in Marvel, these guys reside in the 16th dimensional. The Eternity, it's usually the one of representation of all of the multiverse, so it makes sense with that. And he's usually summoned there by what's the thing called? By the Living Tribunal. I don't think he's that powerful. I think the Living Tribunal really reigns that domain, but he brings the others there to just do the council. But then he also talked about the Cosmic Cube, which, like I said, is very important. That was the big shift when it came to the story of the Beyonder and the understanding of his power, where it comes from. He says it was an experiment placed by the powers of infinity in the hands of mortals. So yes, like these were made for mortals that had big potential to grant them their wishes and whatever they wanted. Minute bits of energy, so only a bit of energy from outside to there, from the universe of the Beyonders slipped through, and then it's a result of this creation of these devices called cosmic cubes, the neo-omnipotent, so near-omnipotent beings of power which grew with them. And it's especially in Earth, because Earth has a lot of potential with the mortals there. So then we go transition over to a completely different story. The story that they mentioned earlier when Molecule Man got ejected, they stated they were going to continue his story, and they go on to say, who just happens to be one of the most powerful beings in all of creation at this moment, is isolated tachyon particle at a single point in space. A feat so great physicists of 3,000 worlds would insist was impossible. Simplicity for Owen Reese. So they're saying he's one of the most powerful beings in creation still. He was able to hold a tachyon particle in a single point in space, which 3,000 planets in the universe would assume that's very impressive. Now, after this, what is happening in this story event is apparently Molecule Man's girlfriend leaves him because throughout all the events that they were going through, there was so much danger, and she just couldn't handle it. She was scared. She couldn't handle it, and Molecule Man was kind of depressed at this point, and he was getting down, and that's why he was doing that. And he got to the point where he was just like, you know what, I'm pissed off, I'm mad at them. So he's like, screw it. He ended up just saying, I'm gonna go back to my evil ways. So he turns back to his evil Molecule Man self, and the first thing he does is he wants to enact revenge on the Beyonder for what he did. So because the Beyonder, what's the thing called? He ruined his relation with his girlfriend when he attacked him and did all that stuff, and that's what really scared her in the first place. So he's like, I'm gonna go back to being evil and I'm gonna come after him. But at this point, Beyonder had evolved into Cosmos, and to get him back, he had to pull Cosmos out, Beyonder out of him. So as they're talking about like something, and he said, power unimaginable wielded by a deranged mind, reaching out through space and time, steering to seek from my former, ripping the essence from my being, tearing this which I once was. So Beyonder evolved, fully completed himself as a complete Tesseract, turned into Cosmos herself, and now since the Molecule Man is mad and wants revenge on him, he pulls him out, and he's gained more power somehow to the point where he's so powerful that he's even able to affect a Cosmic Cube level character and pull him out. So meaning he might be around their level, meaning he probably surpassed Beyonder, and that's why he wants to fight him and is so confident. But as they do get into the fight, Beyonder is like, yo, I don't think you forgot, but I fucked you up last time. So he blasts him. He said, you have forgotten that you and I are products of the same cosmic event. Even if you have forgotten that all the myriad multiverses, only my power exceeds yours, even might as nothing compared to my supreme power, which is mine. So he said, did you forget? We got our power from the same reason, from the same thing. I have most of that power. I'm above you in terms of power. I whooped your ass last time. He said in the myriad of multiverses, which does layer the cosmology of Marvel even more, because now it's not just multiple universes or like a whole like multiple universes in a multiverse, or an infinite amount of universes in a multiverse. There's possibly even multiple multiverses. I don't know how that works though. If you have every different type of universe you could have in a multiverse, how are you going to have another type of multiverse on top of that? That, in my opinion, doesn't make any sense, but that's what he says. So most likely it depends on if it's literally what he means, that there's multiple different types of multiverses, or there's just one, he's having multiple universes or whatever. But he still says he's above all those beings and attacks him, and it seems to be doing some damage, but Molecule Man at this point seems to be able to handle it very well as he goes back and he starts to fight him. He says, with my persona ascending to the true Molecule Man, I now transition power levels unimaginable even to you. So yes, he did hit him, but Molecule Man was able to handle it, and he said, yo, look, you're getting this wrong, because at the past, yes, you were stronger than me, but I'm not that same guy anymore. I have, surpassed that level of power. So he's saying that now his power is unimaginable to him, kind of like what Kubak said to him when he first fought him. Now, as they fight, we see a bunch of crazy stuff happening. It says, a conflict spanning the planes of existence for which there are no human words or thoughts, employing energies to reach which the raging hearts of galaxies are glittering candle flames, a battle in which the laws of physics are tortured beyond recession and eventually shattered. At best you can but equal me, for my destination of power is absolute. Arrogant fool, there are infinities beyond your narrow limited perception. So they're basically saying their power is spanning across all of planes of reality, all throughout the multiverse. Makes sense. We've seen this before, and that their energy is so powerful that it makes the energy of a galaxy look like candle fire. Which, once again, not that surprising, seeing as how he was able to span all the way through there, and it could end up destroying everything in their big cosmic battle. And as they're battling, you see a little bit of the Beyonder getting punched back quite a bit. He's getting warped and stuff, but he's also able to do some damage to Molecule Man. But Molecule Man multiplies himself and says there's infinities beyond your limited perception, saying that there's more than you can understand. Then we go and see as they're fighting still, and Beyonder seems to be struggling more. We see different effects throughout different planets, different timelines, different realms, and different places altogether being affected by their battle. Once again, not surprising, seeing as how last time it was kind of like the same. But as this is happening, Cosmos is still there, but she's now dying, and Kubak wants to save her. He's like, dude, you need to stop fighting the Beyonder, because she needs him inside her body to be complete, and without her being complete, she's going to end up pretty much disappearing or dying. So he goes on to plead to him, saying, "You know what? Not what you do, Owen Reese. To refine the life force of such a being as the Beyonder would have devastating consequences. Havoc unthinkable could be wreaked across multiversal cosmology. So, and why should I care? Do you plan to contest me? That would be the height of futility. Though our power is theoretically equal, your potential dwarfs mine." Now, this is important for a few reasons. At this point, Molecule Man did beat Beyonder. He was going to kill him. So, yes, Beyonder met his match once again. And it makes sense, as it was explained by Quback, why. But let's get into a few things. He says that, well, one, Cosmos is being severely affected by this, and if you kill Beyonder, it's going to kill her. Two, it will have effect throughout the multiversal cosmology as a whole. So, killing Beyonder affects the multiverse. Molecule Man's power affects the multiverse, and Beyonder's power affects the multiverse. And then as Quback tries to plead to him, and he tells him, like, please don't do this. There's going to be very cataclysmic, things are going to happen. He basically challenges him, like, yo, what are you going to do about it? What do you want to pull up on him? You want to fight? And he tells him, no. Theoretically, we are equal. So he says it himself. He confirms it that they're on terms of power. That's why he was able to beat Beyonder. But he says, but your potential dwarfs mine. So this is important because now we know that Molecule Man, even though he had a fraction of Beyonder's power, and even with Beyonder's power, he couldn't beat Quback. Quback said that he was infinite leagues above him and that he was well above him, right? He was also beating him and almost killed him until, Molecule Man showed up to prevent him from getting killed and to help him, right? That basically means that the completed form of them is way stronger than the Beyonder, and they're on another level of infinity above him. And now the Beyonder's on Molecule Man's on his level. That's why Beyonder couldn't beat him. So basically, he's equivalent to a fully evolved Cosmic Cube. I don't know if he can get stronger than that, but we do know that he's on the level of a full level Cosmic Cube. Now, actually, I do know he can get stronger than that. I'm wrong because he literally said that you have potential to dwarf's mine. That's important because he's saying at our terms of power right now, we're equal, but the difference between you and me is, as I'm a Cosmic Cube and not a person, I don't have any additional potential. I have a high ceiling and I'm a high levels of infinity, but I only can reach that level and I can't go above that. For me to go above that, I would need to work with the human to grant them their desire. Whereas you, on the other hand, you are a human with that power, so you don't have that limit. You do have the ceiling, but you can reach higher and grow higher in potential, just like with any character, getting stronger, like Goku and stuff like that. But after this, he says, your origins as immortal being accustomed to the limitations giving you vast advantages, no mere element omnipotent such as I could hope to defeat. This is a depth and tendency, your existence that runs deeper than sheer power. So basically he's telling him, look, you're stronger than this, you don't need to do this, and you, since you're a human and stuff, you have no, you guys limit yourself all the time. So by you guys putting limitations on yourself and reaching higher levels of, power and potential, you guys can grow exponentially. A being like me cannot. I am stagnant with my thing. Once when I reach that high pinnacle, I cannot go above it. You, on the other hand, since you're immortal and you have potential, that potential and that limitations increase your power. So I'm guessing what happened to the Molecule Man to make him so powerful is he limited himself so much, and he was growing his potential. I guess it's just like, with Goku. He's like super powerful, but he can get stronger as he trains. Same thing with him. Beyonder couldn't train to get stronger, whereas Owen Reese, he can train. Maybe mentally he limited himself more and more, and that trained him further. But as they go on, he said, that is because he is not a shadow of you. Truly is the true conscious of the true potential. The Molecule Man is barely more than myself or the Cosmo or Beyonder. You are far, far more. So he's saying himself, he's confirmed 100% that not only are you more powerful than the Beyonder, you're powerful than Cosmo and me, but you're not just more powerful than us, you're powerful by far. So, like I said, there's different levels of infinity. He stated that the Beyonder was infinite, but he was below his infinity, and now Cosmo's infinity. But now Molecule Man has reached their level, but he can go infinitely more powerful than them. But there are the Celestials that created them, which are even higher in that level. We don't know if Molecule Man's on that level. I wouldn't say at this point because, like he said right now, even in his Quback state or true, I would say Cosmic Cube state, they couldn't handle them. So I would say Molecule Man isn't. Does this mean he can't some point later on? Maybe no, but who knows. But after this, we go into way later in the future of his story because he doesn't get talked about for quite a while. And this one's a little confusing though. We're going through the events of the first Secret Wars again, but through Deadpool's story side. So we're seeing through his story, but it does seem to not connect with the original records of how it worked. So it's a little confusing and a little jarring. But I'm gonna go through it still because there's some impressive feat here. But it is a little weird because the way they show the Beyonder in this is going through like Deadpool's mind. I mean not Deadpool, Deadpool's mind, and Deadpool's a little he's a little crazy. So as he's talked to the Beyonder in the events in Secret Wars 1, they pulled up on Doom, and then he says, "This is the foundation of reality, of eternity. Every event in every universe originates here." I guess we always knew, at least one part of me did, but looking at it, I can see the truth. This really is a comic book, isn't it? So yes, this is looking through his mind, and this is his perception saying, yeah, these stories and events just prove that this is a comic book because he always breaks the fourth wall. And that weird little creature, yes, that is Beyonder for some reason. I'm guessing this is why I'm saying this might be just in his mind because he's probably just envisioned him this way. But he says that this he's showing the foundations of reality and eternity. So you're looking through the different universes and all the events and stories that happen that transpire through them. But after that, we transition into the next part where we get into the bigger scope of things. This is the more modern age of the Beyonder and his power. We find out more about the Celestials. We find out more about the Marvel cosmology and the Beyonder himself and all the power scaling. Also, this next section, which is pretty much transitions to the last part, is very important because this starts off from the story event that I covered when I did the Galactus story event where he was the Lifebringer and he was working with the I forgot what the group's name was, the Defenders or Offenders, I forgot what they called, but the Blue Marvel was the leader. It was that story event where it was finding the Fragmented One who was trying to destroy the the omniverse and the multiverse itself and try to take down eternity. So it was that whole story event, and this was a side story of that whole story as a whole. That was the main story plot that I went through, but this is the side story and the additional parts that we had, and we get explained more of the lore. And I think it's very important because it gives us more of a scaling on the power itself. So as we transition to the next story, like I said, it's going to be very important to go through it because it explains everything and it makes things make more sense. So as we go on, there's an explanation about the Celestials. It goes as, our creators had no collective name. They were simply the earliest creations of the earliest cosmos, and they worshipped their creators. What else was there to do? As a strata of the earliest beings took the vibrant color, defined their monochromatic follows a rainbow of rebel angels with rebellious unsanctioned desires. They became the Celestials. The Celestials rebel, became a celestial war, changes versus and stagnations in evolution versus status, tomorrow versus yesterday, a war that split the first fragmented asunder to create the second cosmos. So we did go and cover this, like I said, with the Galactus story, but this gives a little bit more context. So once again, they mentioned the first Celestials, who were they were just purely black colored, like they were completely inked. Versions of the Celestials, and then they created the more colorful and vibrant version of the Celestials. And even though they were their creation, they turned on them and ended up also being able to kill them. So I'm guessing, I think they stated that they created even more powerful versions of themselves. So yes, even though they're powerful beings, they can create beings that are even more powerful than them, and they ended up turning on them, killing them. That created the Celestial War, and as this war raged on, it ended up causing a lot of effects to the universe itself, and then they fired an energy blast, and it ended up destroying the first cosmos, the fragmented one, and then it created so they can create the second cosmos. That's how they were trying to operate lives and change stuff, because the first cosmos, they already had like their own structure, because like I explained in the Galactus one, every time that there's a new cycle, there is a new laws and structure. Like in the past one where what's the name? Galactus came from, where he was immortal. they had different laws than like life and death and chaos and order. They had their own type of laws that don't affect Galactus now, because whatever laws that affected him were from his universe that no longer existed in the next one. So each iteration of these cycles of universes have their own laws and concepts and conceptual things that they go by, and they have different effects on those people. The people from the previous ones, it does not affect. So these Celestials want to destroy this one, so when they get into the next one, this new conceptual beings would, one, also not affect them, but two, since they created this, they can create the different concepts and have different things, so they can orchestrate things to their way. So this led to quite a bit. And then they go on to explain more, as it says, a multiverse of possibilities, which what if could become what is, but infinite possibility unchecked creates infinite instability. A super formulous chaos and a new creation had to be maintained. So the Celestials created saboteurs of the task, well suited to the infinite Omega life forms without limit. So what now happened is, after the Celestials, the colored ones, killed the dark ones. Once they killed the dark ones and they destroyed the fragmented one, because the fragmented one explained in that story that there was only one universe in the first cycle, but when it got destroyed, in the second cycle is when they created the multiverse, and there was multiple universes, as they stated that a possibility of multiverses was created afterwards. It used to be like what if to now what is, meaning that before you could since there was only one possibility, the other possibilities were just a thought. But now with this new cycle, you can make those thoughts into new realities and different avenues that the structure can go through. So that's how the multiverse came to be. And what these new what is and these new possibilities, it created an infinite amount of universes and other possibilities of what could happen in this universe, which created instability, because if you have too much of that, it will mess with the infrastructure. So the Celestials realized this, and by realizing this, they created their own creations, just like how the former ones did. But this time they created, which they have created quite a bit, but this time they've created the Omega beings, the life forms without limit, which were the Beyonders. So the Beyonders realm and dimension was not there until the Celestials created them. So Celestials technically created their dimension and them, but that does not mean that the Beyonders are weaker than them. The Beyonders are actually stronger than them, seeing as how they said without limit. So I'm guessing with the Cosmic Cubes, when they created them to be powerful, but they have a certain limit they can reach. So they have a high ceiling, but they can't go past that. And then the humans can go past it by evolving and adapting and basically just with their potential. And I'm guessing he granted the Beyonders the same thing. They were very powerful, but he also gave them the ability to grow just like mortals. So this would be able to happen for them to turn back on them and end up killing the Celestials, because I'm guessing the Celestials are just kind of like their cubes, where they cannot reach higher than the levels of power that they already have, right? And I guess this is why the Beyonders were able to kill somebody like the Living Tribunal, even though the Living Tribunal is well above them. The Living Tribunal, I'm guessing these are other conceptual beings, like they stated in the story event once again with Galactus when he was going through this. They stated that usually the conceptual beings have a set level of their power, and that's why there's this order and structure. But when every time a new universe gets created, that order goes into chaos, and once it goes into chaos, you can change it however you want. So the conceptual beings can go up higher. That's what they did when they were trying to take down Eternity and take down the Living Tribunal himself. But the Beyonders, they surpassed him in powers because they were given no limits to their power. So they can just grow stronger, like Goku or somebody like Saitama. But then they also go on, say creations with the raw power if it become necessary to destroy even their creator. So also there they stated that the Celestials created them without limit, and they even have the power to, if they want to necessarily, to be able to destroy even their creators, the Celestials themselves. So they could go beyond the Celestials, and they probably most likely did, I'm guessing. So they could go beyond them, and that makes sense why they were able to kill Living Tribunal, since he should be above Celestials. And they were he was attacked by multiple of them, but still. And this story was being told to us by the Beyonder himself, as the Beyonder goes on to say, beyond the direction theorized in the before time, the sixth infinity, by successors who crave first contact with unfinite life. So he's mentioning the event with the sixth infinity, he's basically talking about the sixth eternity, the sixth cycle of the cosmos, which we get eternity. Eternity and infinity are two sides of the same coin of conceptual ideas, right? And he's saying that since that's what it's called, the sixth infinity, which is just the sixth cycle. Since that was done, there was the fragmented one that was planning from there to make everything into one. There was the seventh cosmos, and then we were getting into the eighth one right after. But as this is happening, Beyonder's explaining stuff. He says, fixing me meant speed running certain larval stages until fully grown whole. I could join my own people here in the engine room of creation. I've always did love engines, all gadgets, but it was afraid of me. And here after their starting, I got always been a little bit broken, and I've gone badly. I could have known that there would have been rogue Beyonders like Adversary until Blue Marvel fought, removing him from the continuity, left a mess too. I've so heard Monica's been investigating what if left behind is of the most destroyed that eunuch, the seventh cosmos was it. That was all of us, of you together. That was no incident. So now he's explaining that when he was the female version, that was his evolved state. But now he came back to just being Beyonder himself at some point. I don't know what happened, but yes, they went with the whole cosmic cube thing. That is transitioned over. Sometimes they might retcon stuff, but they kept that. So he is a cosmic cube. He was in his perfect form, but he separated even after the event where he fused back into her when the Molecule Man was fighting him. At some point, he separated from her again, and he was evolved enough to the point where he doesn't need to be her to be full. So now he is on the level of the full cosmic cube. So even though he looks like his previous self, he's on that level of the full cosmic cube. So it means that he probably matches the Molecule Man at that time when he fought him. And now he's there with his other Beyonder brothers. These are separate Beyonders. I know it gets confusing. The original Beyonders were the beings of the higher dimension that created them. But these are, I'm going to call them the cosmic cube Beyonders. Those are just the celestial Beyonders. These are the cosmic cube Beyonders. So the cosmic cube Beyonders have their own realm, and they call it the engine room. And in their room, they basically scope and look at the multiverse and the universe as a whole, and they decide what they should do. So they investigated the multiverse, and then they realized that there's a lot of problems, so they want to destroy it. So like I mentioned before, when I was covering this event when I first did it, I stated in those how strong is Galactus videos, I was like, well, they mentioned multiple times they're in the sixth cycle. How did they transition to the seventh cycle? When did they transition to the seventh cycle? I assumed that it was at some point where it was where either Thanos had the heart of the universe and destroyed everything, or when Adam Warlock destroyed the universe. But I was like, well, that would only affect one universe, not a multiverse. So I was always confused on that. I was like, destroying the universe shouldn't affect the multiverse, but now it makes sense. The ones who did destroy it, and the reason that event happened, where we transitioned from the 6th to the 7th, was the Beyonder and his other Cosmic Cube Beyonders that worked in the engine room. They inspected everything. They said, fuck it, this is not going right. We're going to wipe out the 6th, and then we got the 7th. Though it doesn't really make sense still with the logic because of what we've been explained by the cosmology. Every time they go into a next cycle, there should be new rules of concepts, but the conceptual rules didn't change. There's still death, there's still infinity, there's still order and chaos, there's still the in-betweener. So something happened that didn't change, but the 7th cycle came into fruition. But also he mentioned the Rogue Beyonders, which that's what they call them. So the Rogue Beyonders fought Blue Marvel, and apparently I guess he beat one of them somehow, but he fought against the Rogue ones. Then we do see the rest of the Cosmic Cube Beyonders with him as they're talking in the engine room. They say the experiment failed. Conclusion will be we cannot be prevented. Coordinates engines are being created and placed in Enigma Force. May help contain the thread to narrow band of realities, but they will not save those realities. They will save you. So they're explaining now that in their console room to the group that are trying to save all of the realities or the multiverse or the omniverse, they're saying, hey, look, we in this room, we have these engines that are using this Enigma force. It will help contain the threat to a narrow, like some few realities, but it can't save those realities. All it can do is basically try to minimize the damage into only a few realities. We can't really do much beyond it. So this event was even beyond their levels of power and what their capabilities were, and they were trying to ask for the help and saying, we can't really do anything. The most we can do is limit the damages. And as this is happening, the Beyonder is talking to the rest of his people. He said, right, don't you even think about passing through the higher realms. We power engines from either there where the realities get really dangerous, even for me, and I'm so powerful. So he's stating that there's this furnace or one of this engine area where they can go into it, and if they go into it, they get transported throughout the different realms and higher realms of power. But if they go through it, it gets more and more dangerous, even to the point that Beyonder says, hey, these higher levels of dimensions are even above my level, and we already know how powerful he is. So the fact that he says that this is beyond his, once again showcases the limit to where his power lies for the Beyonder himself. But the rest of the group, they can, if they go through this, they're going to go through higher dimensions. So they're like, well, we can't do anything. We can't just sit here and let these universes be destroyed, even a few of them. We're going to have to step in and stop this big threat. So now they're trying to argue against them, even though they're like, it's pointless. So as they go on, it says, I don't understand why we transition our power levels unimaginable to those creations we cannot be fought. Why do they still wish to fight? Because they're human, silly, but don't worry. I'll handle this. I'll fight humans before. It'll be fun. Because we will hit back, right? Except that Eternity Mask gives me power equal to yours beyond it. Even been in a real, I've ever been in a real fight. So now we have America Chavez wearing this thing called the Eternity Mask. It was given to her by one of her teammates, and I never heard of the Eternity Mask, and I don't know how the hell this would make her equivalent to Beyonder's power. But later on, it does explain how this thing works, and I'll get into that. But for right now, America Chavez, even though she has the ability to go through dimensions and like open portals and rifts to them, she shouldn't be able to handle somebody like the Beyonder. But the reason that she can is due to the fact that she has this mask. So this mask somehow made her gain enough power to even match somebody like the Beyonder. So they get into a fight. She ends up punching him. We see this weird like effect. It seems to be like they're punching through different planes of reality. And he even mentions something like that, saying your blow had struck across multiple planes of reality. I felt pain again on a level never experienced. So he gets punched by her as she uses the mask. She was telling the truth that yes, it does give him her power to be equal to him. It makes him bleed, and that one punch alone was sending ripples throughout the multiple planes of reality. So now she's fighting him. As they're fighting, there's a hole through the dimension, even in their engine room. And he's like, you struck one of us. How can it be? How can it be that? Oh yeah, sorry to that. I know even gods are nothing to you, blah, blah, blah. So he's not wondering, like, how the hell are you able to attack us? Like, you're not supposed to be on our level of power. How are you doing that? But it is the mask that's doing it. It's not her power. She wouldn't be able to do that without it. So as this is happening, one of the members there is pretty much I'm pretty sure it's the god of stories, Loki, which people say this is the most powerful version of Loki himself. So this is going to be interesting too, to see more of where his power lies, because he does show some little bit of interesting feats. And I know he looks like a girl, but I'm pretty sure he's just a little a teenage boy. But he is pretty much considered the most powerful version of Loki himself. And I might make a video about how strong he is in the future at some point too. But as he goes on, he's attacking one of the Beyonders. He says, all the rules of reality, you can say, just step on me. Thing is, as long as I'm around, you have to play by my rules, the laws of narrative. I am the goddess of stories. Oh no, it's a woman. So she said goddess of stories. I always thought these people said the god of stories, and they said it was a boy. So I don't know, but it doesn't really matter. So Loki, the goddess of stories, has the ability to basically as she says, you have to play by my rules, the laws of narrative. So there's people who can warp, mess with time. There's people who can warp reality, and then there's people who can warp narratives. So basically, the narrative of the story itself. This is something that's been stated for something like Cosmic Armored, Superman. I stated that wasn't the case. He was just explaining what was happening and narrating the story. He wasn't really, writing the laws of it, but for the goddess of stories, this is 100% the case, that her power is the power to put people into writing narratives. So she can control the story narrative of Marvel. Now this power is a little complex. It's a little confusing. It's definitely powerful, but there's a little bit more to it, and I want to explain that. But I want to just first explain this scene. She was even with her, even with the Beyonder being very powerful, her power was able to affect him. And she said anybody that comes into contact her or what comes in around her, it has to play by her rules, and that's the narrative. So the story narrative of whatever she chooses, they have to play by. This is very powerful because even somebody as powerful as a Beyond, who has levels of infinite power, which they should be all skilled around the same power, have to follow these rules, which is crazy. Now, the whole narrative power thing is pretty much kind of like reality warping, but to a different level, where it's not just reality, it's just specifically a narrative, which is a little complex. I don't like this type of powers because it's like, if you warp reality, technically you warp narratives, you don't need to do that. Narrative warping, it really depends on the writers, because some writers like to admit that, yeah, this is a fictional world, they're in the comic book world, so that's why there's stories that they can manipulate. But then other writers, when they write their universe, they want to make you believe that, hey, this universe is not work of fiction, it is 100% that's how it is. So it really depends of the story, the way the writers want to go by. This story in this universe is on the books of a comic book page, where they have like these powerful beings that get a step outside of the comic book page to attack them. People say that those characters are very powerful, but that's just how they write the structure in that form of what's been called powered universe. Whereas other writers might not want to do that. They might not want to put themselves as this character that writes the story, and then these characters can jump out. So that doesn't make those characters weaker. It just means that the story structure is different, where one is willing to break the fourth wall and say, hey, this is just a story, whereas the other one's like, no, I want you guys to believe this. So the narrative thing, it might work, but I think it only works on particular characters, I would say. Because if you want to use the Goddess of Stories and fights against other characters, it depends on who it's against. Because this whole narrative manipulation thing, it really depends, because if it's like Marvel and DC, where they specifically say, yeah, this is a comic book that break the fourth wall, then I think the narrative thing can transition over there. But if it's like another universe, like in Dragon Ball, they never really do that. We know that it's like, a little bit more of a gag and a playful story sometimes, but they never specifically ever state that that this is a story that's been written by a guy and stuff. So that's a little weird. But still, even with that power, he has to follow that rules. So afterwards, they go on, they start talking, saying he's an immortal engineer of the multiverse. He'll get over it. I'm just evening the odds a little. More than that, can a non-finite entity function within such boundaries? Remember, our Beyonder said when he was confined and his perception was limited, that he went mad. Mad, emotional, unbalanced, suffering, anger at perceived slightest implications of insanity. You chose to use the story against me, a tail spinner. Beyonder, wait, stop. So, also, people need to understand that when abilities can work on people, certain powerful characters, even really powerful characters, but that doesn't mean it completely works on them. So even though the Goddess of Stories' ability of narrative manipulation did work on the Beyonder himself, it didn't fully control him. It just worked on him for a bit. It was just there to hold him back for a bit, but he was able to break out of it and say, you were trying to really mess with me. And she even noticed that it was just to hold him off for a bit. But they said non-finite beings going there. So yes, these dimensions are for higher infinite levels and tiers of infinity for infinite beings. So she's saying, well, we're finite beings, and even the infinite beings can't handle it. Could we? And as they're talking, and as the Beyonder is approaching, Blue Marvel actually flies up and hits him right in the head and obliterates him. Now, some of you guys are saying, damn, Blue Marvel is really powerful. I have heard Blue Marvel is really strong. Some people say he can destroy a universe or two universes or the multiverse or whatever. He's considered to be one of the most powerful beings in the universe, and he was able to take him down. So some people are saying he's really powerful. But they do explain a little bit what happened, and the guy says, what was that? I thought we were the underdogs. They are clothed in matter. I am a living matter reactor. That's why I gave the mask to back. I don't need it. I just wish I would have been there half a second faster. So Blue Marvel gave the mask to America Chavez. He admitted that he gave it to her because he doesn't need it. She needs it to power herself up. He doesn't need it because even though the Beyonders are very powerful, they take a physical form which is created from matter. And since he's an antimatter reactor, anytime he gets into contact with matter, he can obliterate it. So a lot of people might scale this up to saying, well, this makes Blue Marvel on the level of the Beyonders. I wouldn't say that. I think he just destroyed the physical form because the physical form was made out of matter. If they were their energy form, he wouldn't have been able to do that. He didn't also destroy him completely. He just destroyed. He just simply destroyed the physical form. So that's not really the same. Also, they do mention a little bit of the Black Winter. Then we go on as they do jump into the realm changing thing. Is the Beyonders say the broken ones give us chase, but we must prevent this. Don't succumb to the narrative forces. We have done all we can do. This is the Defender's choice to traverse beyond the beyond. They chose the path of trial. So the other guy was like, should we go after them? The other dude was like, don't follow the narrative forces. So what the goddess of stories was using, because Loki there's different forces, and one of the forces that she was using was the narrative force, and he's saying, don't play into it. The only way that the narrative force can work on us is if you play into it. So don't play into it. So as long as they don't play into the narrative, the narrative that is being set, it won't work on them. And then he also mentions that they're going to the beyond, that is beyond whatever, and they fall into this beyond place now, the first one, and as they go there, it's a Beyonder talking to Loki. He says, moment when I outclassed silly you, if you even trapped me, I outclassed silly. If you haven't trapped me in a narrative arc, I never have come here. I mean, I'm omnipotent, of course, technically speaking, but against the pure Phoenix Force, actually inside the white hot room, we're probably going to end up like a carrot here. Yeah, that's the spirit. Think positive. So he himself admitted that he did get trapped and ensnared in the narrative arc, but the reason why he did was the Beyonder is more of a desirable guy, and he likes desire and he likes adventure and stuff, so he kind of would be more with his personality in tune to play into the narrative itself. So the narrative manipulation power does work, but it only works of the certain people that are getting played into it. Even higher omnipotent level beings like the Beyonder can get affected by it, but only if they choose to play by it. So if somebody is arrogant or more adventurous and wants to participate, they will and enact. They get themselves trapped in it. So the narrative thing, you can get trapped, and he got trapped in it. But he also mentions in the pure Phoenix Force and the white hot room is even too much power for him, which is kind of ridiculous and crazy if you think, because we've seen him fight the Phoenix Force before. Even the Phoenix Force going all out couldn't beat him. But in the white hot room, apparently the Phoenix Force is so powerful, even the Beyonder can't handle him. And we've seen this argument before with, Death Battle and stuff when they mentioned, Phoenix Force versus Raven, and they talked about the White Hot Room. We've heard it before with other stories and other people in Death Battles and, versus battles, saying it's very powerful. I never knew how high the scope of power is, but apparently it's so powerful that in this realm, with the Phoenix Force residing in it, even if the Beyonder was to go in there, he would basically be destroyed. He couldn't handle it. So then they go on and say the white hot room is where existence melts the real deal, the highest plane you can reach without risking the abyss. So now the Phoenix Force possesses one of their the Defenders members, and as it possesses her, it's talking and saying the white hot room is where existence meets in real deal. So when she meets a real deal, meaning that when reality, whatever you believe in, it can come to reality, it can come to truth here. So in the white hot room, you can basically create whatever you want, and this is the highest plane you can reach without risking the abyss. Meaning that, like I said, there's different dimensions, different planes of reality in Marvel, and they have different tiers and ranking. And the one where the Beyonders were in, the engine room, was right just below this room, which is the white hot room, and then there's realities that are actually above it, but for the mortal beings, if they were to go past there, it will be too dangerous. So that's what they're saying. They're not saying that it's the highest plane in general. It's just the highest place that they can reach without it being too dangerous for them. So this does showcase the scaling. Like I said, the Beyonder admitted that in the white hot room that the Phoenix Force, the true pure Phoenix Force, is above him. And it makes sense now if you think about it, since the engine room was right below that dimension. So the engine room where the Beyonders reside is above the multiverse and they destroyed the last cycle, but it is also below the White Hot Room. So if the Beyonders were to go into that dimension, they would get obliterated by the pure Phoenix Force. And if the pure Phoenix Force was to go into the next plane of existence, she would get completely obliterated. So every time they go into this next level of infinity, and it's higher levels of power. So after this, we have Phoenix Force attacking the members. She does attack Blue Marvel. It hits him, and he's able to actually tank it. I don't think she's trying to go all out to kill him, but she is definitely trying to hurt them. But it just shows how powerful Blue Marvel is right there. But I don't believe that the Blue Marvel is stronger than Beyonder. I'm not trying to say he is, because I still think Beyonder is way more powerful than him. But she is holding back, though they still can. Blue Marvel is still very powerful. So after this, as they're fighting the Phoenix Force and Life and Death Incarnate, all things, all places in the White Hot Room must evolve. Adam, my host, may have limits, but Ta is only the house where I live. Beyonder, sorry, I sound to the attention, super dignified, like a supernova. But I like to make a blunder, and I didn't want to cut it. So okay, what happens here is she's basically saying that this place is like life and death incarnate. This is a place like where all of things like can happen, and they're like above, because there's like higher dimensions of infinity. And as she's attacking them, she's stating that she has limits to her power due to the fact that the host that the Phoenix Force needs to take over has its own limitations, and she is not trying to fully kill them, but is trying to harm them still. That's why they're able to handle it. And Beyonder comically throws a blender at her head, as he created earlier, and he said he could have created a supernova to hit her with, but he just already had a blender there. So as this is happening, America Chavez jumps in with her Eternity Mask, attacks her, says, hey, tell me this, where the Phoenixes are made. Figured I'd use the Eternity Mask to try to figure it out. The Phoenix Force turned on itself to save time-lost troublemaker. So now America Chavez is attacking her, which is crazy. This Eternity Mask is insane. And like I said, I'll explain later on, because they do explain to us what is so impressive about this. But this Eternity Mask seems to be able to have a lot of powers. Now, it does have some links to Eternity himself, which is the representation of all the universe as a whole. But this Eternity Mask was able to help her match the power level of the Beyonder, and now match the power level of the Phoenix Force. Now, some of you guys are going to say, well, wait, how can it match the Beyonder and now match the Phoenix Force, but the Phoenix Force, but the Beyonder stated that the Phoenix Force at this area is above him. So how is she able to match him, but then fight somebody who's way stronger than him, even though he's weaker? And like I said, I'll explain it. So let's just get through a few more stuff, and then we'll get more of the explanations on, how this mask works, because it's very important and very impressive right now. So we go into the next. What happened was they were able to escape the Phoenix Force, and it slipped from that room. So they went from the Beyonder's domain, which was the engine room, which was below the White Hot Room, where it was housing the Pure Phoenix, which was infinite leagues above the engine room, meaning that the Phoenix Force is stronger than the Beyonder by infinite levels. And then as they escaped, they went to the next one, which the Phoenix Force warned them, saying, if you go past this, you're going to go to the abyss, and you can't really come back. So this is the other plane of dimension that's even higher than the White Hot Room, which is known as abyss. And they get approached by one of the beings there, saying, of course it does. You all died by fire, and now you're in the abyss with me, but don't worry, even here. Okay, so what happened was, I forgot, they didn't escape, they got killed by her. So the Phoenix Force actually killed all of them, even the Beyonder included, and even, America Chavez. They said they died by the fire, and they were sent to the next dimension, which was the abyss. Or I think they worked. The Phoenix Force was like, fine, if you want to go there so bad, I have to kill you, and that's how you get to the other dimension. So she killed them, took them to the abyss, and now we have the being in the abyss. As this being basically sets up an illusion. It sets up an illusion and takes down all the members. Blue Marvel's taken down, Beyonder's taken down, all of them are taken down, and they're now trapped in an illusional world. And she starts talking to America Chavez, saying, the Eternity Mask, of course, even outside of all universes, some things are universal, and it makes you the equal of anyone you fight. So give up the power to break free of my illusionary worlds. But why would you want to fight me? Look at what's done to the others. So, like I said, I was going to explain it because this is very important. So this is very interesting. This being basically says that, hey, look, this dimension, I put you guys all under illusionary worlds to trick your minds to keep you trapped here in the abyss forever. And that's how her or his power works. And I'm going to say her because it looks, I'm going to say her because it looks more like a woman. But she basically says that the Eternity Mask, of course, it's outside of all universes. Some things are universal and makes you equal to fighting anyone. So the Eternity Mask, the way it works is once you put it on, whoever you match up against or go against, it makes you equal to their power. That's how she was able to match the Beyonder and then somehow match the, what's it called? The Phoenix Force, even though the Phoenix Force should be well above, Beyonder, even though he stated himself. And then also now how she was able to escape the illusion and be able to handle this being because the mask allowed it. So this mask basically, its cheat code is whoever you fight against, you're on equal terms. So it can fluctuate in terms of power depending on who's fighting. So let's say it's fighting against somebody that's like way weaker. Let's say the Hulk. It will make it match the Hulk. Or if you fight somebody like Spider-Man, it will make it match Spider-Man. Or you can make it match Beyonder. So it can change from any level, but it depends on who you're fighting. So it isn't like this power that is omniversal, but it could reach those levels depending on who it is. So now, also the reason why this being mentioned outside of all the universes, there's a universal rule. The universal rule there's like certain items that there are in the universe or in existence that have certain rules that apply to every dimension, no matter, because depending on the universe or depending on the dimension or the multiverse or whatever, there are different set rules and different concepts that they have. But there are some specific rules and concepts that transition through all of reality and all of dimensions and all of existence that are just 100% cannot be changed. And this is one of them. The Eternity Mask, throughout no matter which dimension you go to, it's always going to have the power to match whoever it's against, and no matter who it fights against in the match. Now, this doesn't mean that whoever wears the Eternity Mask automatically wins. They do match them in terms of power, but if the person has better like abilities or is more skilled, then that person's going to lose. Because just because you're on equal terms with somebody doesn't mean you can beat them always. So as this is happening, the being is basically mocking America Chavez and says, I told you, you're in the abyss, the land of couldn't be, shouldn't be, the furthest place from reality. There's nothing happens here. There are no stories. So, like I said, with before when I was talking about the goddess of stories, her power is basically the power to create, manipulate story narratives and stories itself. So she had the narrative force, but this dimension has no story, so you can't really use the narrative force, I guess. And it's in the dimension and the land of couldn't, shouldn't be. So there's nothing that can possibly happen here. There's no stories. There's no possibilities. The only possibilities is the illusionary worlds that this being puts them under. So that's it. Everything else, there's nothing exists here. And this stating that this is the furthest place in reality there is, doesn't mean that this is on the highest dimensional plane, obviously. It just means it's the furthest, as in it's the furthest away from creation. There's no real life here. Even though you do see stuff there, it is far away from life. There's nothing really here. All these other dimensions have some stuff. There's nothing to be had here. So this is the land of should and couldn't be. But as this is happening, Rick Java starts talking to her and saying, that's all you could be, a god of lies, building fake worlds just to hurt people more when you break them. You're the one breaking things around here, America Chavez, and I want to make it a true. Before I died, before I was trapped here, I had the chance to become the living personification of the multiverse. My eighth cosmos could not have been mere continuation. It could have been a cosmic reboot, a new beginning for everyone. So this being here apparently didn't even reside here. This being ended up getting here, ended up dying here, and as it ended up dying here and it got trapped, it basically became the living personification of the multiverse. So I'm guessing each of these dimensions have their own set multiverses. I guess that's what Beyonder meant by myriad multiverses, where these each dimensional planes are not just housing a universe, but housing multiverses. So the engine room is its own multiverse and whatever, and this being, it was from another realm, came there, ended up dying there, became a personification of this multiverse. As it did, it wanted to create from the 7th cycle to the 8th cycle, because all these realms, even though they're above and different dimensions from the regular multiverse, they also for some reason have a very direct connect to eternity and infinity and the multiverse as a whole. They want to affect it, and they care about it for some reason, and they always want to, they always focus on it. So now this creature in this dimension wants to affect the multiverse and wipe it out and create the 8th cycle. But as this is happening, America Chavez is able to awake the rest of her teammates, and as she does, the goddess of stories wakes up and basically works with America Chavez to try to find a way to beat this being. And what they do is they end up, America Chavez ends up giving her Eternity Mask to the goddess of stories, and as she does, the goddess of stories goes on to say, "Oh, I get it. The mask is a piece of eternity substance. With a handful of this, Glorian reality could have been made his dream world real, infected eternity from the inside. But unlike certain golden oldies, I think outside the box. Loki, please, I can make you a ruler of Asgard. I don't see that at all." So what happened here was, as they were fighting, the reason why this being wanted them there was because of the Eternity Mask. And as explained by the goddess of stories, she says that the Eternity Mask is a piece of eternity substance, so it is directly connected with him. So eternity's a piece of eternity's body or material has this much power that it can basically grant whoever wears it to be equal in terms of power with anybody else it's fighting against. That's crazy. And the being was, which his name is Glorian, was trying to take this Eternity Mask because it is basically the multiverse itself. By having the fabric of the multiverse in its hands, it could destroy the multiverse as a whole and basically reshape it. So I'm guessing when they're talking about eternity, they're not talking about just the universal personification of eternity, but the multiversal / omniversal personification of eternity, which is the personification of everything. Once you have that, you can basically manipulate all of the realities. And by how you manipulate all the realities, you can choose to destroy them, or you can just choose to change them. So she wanted to destroy all of them and create a new one. But the plan didn't work. America Chavez gave it to Loki. Loki ended up connecting it to the broken piece of her horn. Now she's combining her narrative force with the mask. Usually the mask would just make you equal, but with the narrative force on top of it, it surpasses the power past equal. So the mask made me equal, and then narrative force put additional power. So now the goddess of stories was equal to Glorian. I'm pretty sure is a Glorian. Now she was, on the level of Glorian, but with her additional, narrative powers, it helped surpass her. So as they put on, she goes on to say, "But what else can I see? A little piece of eternity for maybe to contact other cosmic entities, who's a multiversal personification of a god on speed dial." So as she connects it to her horn and uses her narrative ability, now she uses the power to call all the other use the power of eternity to call all the other cosmic entities. So they were fighting against already one of the cosmic entity, and they couldn't really handle them even with the Beyonder's power, so they called all the other ones. And like I said, yes, in the story when the Beyonder fought them first, the cosmic entities were all afraid of him and terrified, and they looked like they were afraid, but as we got explained by Quebec, that these beings were way more powerful. They were just playing with him. They were just trying to see that what his goals were and what his motives were. So it was just like playing on his mind. So after that, they do call it, and we get a being that we've seen and we talked about quite a bit, the Never Queen. As she shows up, she says, "All children have, and I have all love to eternity, who holds my number sacred of magical. I am pilgrimage to journey into mystery, but I will never see it all, for the mystery is infinite. And so I am called Queen of Nevers, who is also Queen of Always." So the other being is the shouldn't be. So it's basically, they're two opposite sides of the same kind of concepts. So the other being is basically the concept of there is no other possibility, there's no other stories, there's no other narratives, there's nothing that can be possible here. There is no possibilities. Whereas the Never Queen, or Queen of Nevers, is basically the limitless possibilities that there are in the universe. So she personifies any possibility of any idea or concept or idea that could exist. So basically the writer, whatever thoughts or ideas they have in their mind, she's the personification of that. So that's why she's more powerful than the other beings. The other being has no stories or like no possibilities, and with infinite possibilities, it means there's infinite power there. And even she says, I don't know all the stories because there is no understanding of infinity, so she can't even understand all of infinity. As this is going, Beyonder starts talking and says, actually, unchecked possibility is pure chaos. That's the first thing they taught me in Beyonder school, which is only shows that even limitless beings have their limits. The Omega Council can't see the future after all. So unchecked possibility is freedom. Even your world, you'd be surprised what it can be. So as this other cosmic being is explaining to Beyonder says, well, that doesn't make any sense. When I was in Beyonder school, which is ridiculous, he says that they explained that like unchecked possibilities is pure chaos. That's why the Beyonders, the cosmic the celestial Beyonders were created by the Celestials because, you know, what all these possibilities and all these what ifs, it made there's too many possibilities and too many realities. It makes too much chaos. And he said pure chaos is going to be dangerous, right? And the other being was like, no. This just showcases that limitless beings like you, because each levels are different levels of infinity, like we've explained with the set theory and Alpha Null from Quebec. So there's different levels of infinity. And Beyonder is usually on the lowest level. When he first came, he was an incomplete level of infinity, but he was still infinity. And Molecule Man was a fraction of that infinity, but he was still infinity. And now him and the Cosmic Cube Beyonders are the first level of infinity. And then there's multiple other levels of infinity. As in their domain, they're the first level. The second level of infinity is the White Hot Room with the pure Phoenix Force. The third level of infinity, I'm guessing, is the Abyss. And then above that is the Never Queen, which is the fourth level of infinity. So there's different levels of infinity, and saying that there's even the limitless beings who have infinite levels have limits that they can reach. And also, even though the Omega Council has the ability to see through the future and timelines, they still have a limit of perception that they can see through the future. So they can't see through all the future, just some of it, or some perceived versions of it. So as we go on, as they're talking, they're showing the different possibilities, and they're showcasing the next cycle, the 8th cycle, since the 7th cycle is pretty much screwed. And at this point, the Loki just wants to see what the 8th cycle Loki is going to be doing, what it looks like. Talking about the 7th Cosmo Loki, getting to the answers that he wanted, and then talking about the next one and what's going to happen. And this... The goddess Loki just wants to be her own thing and doesn't want to be coming back again. So they're like, okay, we finished the problem with the Abyss. We're done with this. We got saved by the Never Queen. Now we're going to be going to the next dimension, or to the highest. They were trying to find the one above all. They were trying to find the God of all things and above all things to help, to ask for help to prevent this. And as they're trying to get into contact, they went to the dimension and they supposedly met him, but as you see throughout the story, that was not the case. That was not actually him. It was another being that was creating creatures and has the ability of creation, but it wasn't the one above all. And Blue Marvel was able to tell with his perceptive abilities. He was able to tell that there was something off. As they were fighting, he goes on to say, "I never said they were lying exactly. I trust the evidence of my senses, and they're stretched to the cosmic limit. This is clearly some primal creative force, the greatest powers we could ever reach. This is your apology speech." So he's basically saying, hey, look, this being might not be the Beyonder, or not the Beyonder. He might not be the one above all, but this being definitely is a very powerful and primal creative force. So it's not God where you could create everything, but it is a force of a being on a higher plane of existence that has the ability to create things. And the only reason he was able to tell was his cosmic limit of his perception was at the highest reach. And he said that even though this being is not on that level of power, we can fight his creatures. He himself is, has power beyond our reach. So Blue Marvel admits that this being is stronger than them, and there's no way they can beat him. but they can't be the creations. And he wants to find out why the thing is attacking them, so, and lying to them. So he's trying to talk it out. So once he goes to talk with them, he says, "There's no power we can reach above yours. You're as high as we can go. That's what defines you. But does that truly make you above all? This is the only being of the journey. It is the being of what you represent." So the being, as you see, it does look like kind of like the one above all and stuff, but it isn't. And he's talking to him and saying, "Look, you might not be the one above all, but you are the highest level of dimensional planing we can go up to at this point. We've been traversing through all these higher dimensional planes to save eternity. The omniverse is in danger. Everything is threatened. We first went to the engine room, which was a higher level and plane of existence than our own, and we met the Beyonder. They stated that the next room is too much, so we went to there. We fought the Phoenix Force. She helped us traverse to the next higher plane of existence, which was the never shouldn't be dimension, which was the abyss. And as they got there, they were fighting against the Glorian, and that being was trying to take them down by put them in illusion. And then they used the Eternity Mask mixed in with the Goddess of Stories narrative force to basically summon the Never Queen, as she's above that, and then she was able to pass them over to the highest level dimension that they could go into, which was this one, which this being, they don't really identify what it is, but this being is known as a creative force, who is the pinnacle of dimensionality that they can reach, but it is in the highest level. So some people might say that this is the pinnacle of the Marvel cosmology. It's not. It's just the pinnacle of that these characters could go to. So as they go on, he says the place where the world of action ends and the world of creation begins, and creates creation above everything. Can even creators? It's their final guide hand. Can there be? Do you know one above all? So he's saying that we've left the world of action, just like the physical world, completely, and now we're in the world of creation, where things can be created, whatever can be created, and this being is kind of like a painter sculpting whatever he wants. And he's asking, "I know you're a creature who creates things, but we want to talk to your creator, since you create things, but there's somebody else that created you, that's above you, that creates even more, which is the one above all." So he's saying, "Hey, look, we've been playing enough of these games. We've been meeting enough of these high dimensional level beings. We know you guys are powerful, but for us to stop this event, we need somebody on a higher level in term of power. We need somebody at the highest level, and we need the Beyonder. We can't just keep on going to you guys. We need him." So he's asked for him. As he's talking to him, he's like, "Oh, well, I can't get you to the Beyonder, but I can give you this." And he gives them this thing called the Crown of Creation. As they're walking on it, it says, "From this house, from the Crown of Creation, I can step outside the multiverse entirely, leave the story forever, and make my own way in its own force to trip the first, my last adventure. I saw the Loki of the Eternity Cosmos, the 8th Cosmos, before I started, and he's doing fine, great, better than I ever expected even." So the Goddess of Stories, her point, the reason why she's helping them out is she's tired of going through the cycle of recreation, and she doesn't want to lose herself. She doesn't want to be recreated into a new Loki. Even with her narrative force, she cannot prevent the destruction of the entirety of the omniverse. Once with the or I'm going to call it multiverse, because the omniverse means everything, which would consider these dimensions. These dimensions are not getting destroyed by it. The multiverses. So the multiversal eternity, when he dies, he's in the 7th cycle. He's going to die and go into the 8th cycle. When he dies and goes to the 8th cycle, then the Goddess of Stories is going to transition from her 7th cycle form to her 8th cycle form and change all together again. And she said, "I just wanted to see what the 8th cycle was going to go through." And I feel like he can have his. I'm not going to mess with it. I just want to use the Crown of Creation that can create and do whatever it wants to just step outside of the multiverse. So I'm in my own lane. So there's going to be two Lokis. There's going to be the Loki of the 8th Cosmos. I'm going to be the 7th Cosmos one. And I'm just going to live my life, however. So that was quite interesting there in that story. Now we transition to the final story where we get to the big story event where the Avengers have been doing some fighting against some certain characters and creatures, and there's been a lot of weird stuff happening. There's a lot of confusion and there's a lot of weirdness, and they're trying to find out what is happening, why is this happening. As they all come together, it's Spider-Man, Black Panther, She-Hulk, and Iron Man. And as they're talking, Iron Man says both are authentic, both have the same time stamp. Our memories have been altered again, but in the instance, we are two distant strides of reality, coexistence within the same timeline. So basically Black Panther and Iron Man are saying that they found out that there was footage of two different events happening at the same time. Spider-Man suggested that maybe this was like somebody making a fake one. They're like digitally making a fake different thing. But Iron Man said, no, they're both authentic. Both the events that were shown, one wasn't like fakely made. They were both made. They're both authentic. They were both made at the same time step. And then Black Panther talking about the fact that there are two different strands of realities that are coexisting. That's why their minds are getting messed up, because these realities are kind of clashing with each other. They have opposite story events that are going simultaneously, which is causing a lot of confusion. We find out what is doing this, and it was apparently the scientist that was doing it, and he says, manipulate, I tear realities asunder. You are the one behind all these fabricated memories and timelines. Why? I needed to distract off the balance when you got too close to discovering my plans. I changed history to set you on the wrong path. You've been dismissively easy led astray. So this scientist or this being is saying, I manipulated and I tear realities asunder. And Thor's like, why are you doing this? Why are you fabricating all these memories in these timelines? And he's saying that, look, I was planning on doing something, and I had my plans and I was getting ready to put it in motion, but you guys are getting too close and you're going to find out, and I don't want that to happen. So I used my power to basically create a separate timeline. So this guy's like, let me do the best distraction. Let me create a whole other timeline simultaneously with this one to confuse these guys. Like, what? As this is happening, he goes on to say, I'm a man of two minds, captain one mind in human and unrecognized genius, and the other one is an alien, the explorer through dimensions who brought what the gifts inside mortal beings could not possibly comprehend, and now consequences finally being in my position, I will reshape this world into my own. So he's saying he's two beings. He is an alien, and he's a scientist, and he's using his power to shift the dimensions and change it to reshape it into his own. So he was trying to reshape the universe into his own, and as he was trying to do it, the Avengers were getting in his way, so he couldn't really do it. So he had to basically try to stop them. But as this is happening, they ended up beating him. He ends up dispersing and leaving. Thor and Black Panther start talking. They say, if you would ever care to explain, would you be watched observing our realities being rewritten by outside forces? So Black Panther says yes. Not only was this being trying to rewrite our reality and try to change it, but there's other outside forces that are trying to affect it. And as this was happening, Iron Man was like, you know what, screw it. I'm going to create a machine that's going to locate this cosmic energy signature of who is manipulating the realities and whoever is doing this, and I'm going to set it up, and when it turns on, it's going to pull whoever it is out from hiding, no matter how well they hide. And at this point, they assumed that it was the Beyonder. Captain America stops and says, hey, look, I know I don't have psychic abilities, I know I can't sense you, but I know it's you, dude. I know you're fucking with me. I swear to God, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. I know what you're fucking doing. And they created this thing to pull his ass out. So they do it and they get him out, and he ends up getting pissed off. He's like, no, you've ruined it. Now he will know where I am. He'll see me. I was trying to help you. Don't you understand? I was trying to save you. So Beyonder is saying that he was the scientist. He was the one messing with the realities. He was doing it. He was trying to change shit up for a specific reason. He's saying that apparently that because he's saying you ruined it, and he's saying that I was trying to help you guys and I'm hiding from somebody. He's saying that apparently there's some other outside force that's even beyond his power that he's scared of, that was going to kill him, and he's a threat and danger to him. So to stop him from being killed, he wanted the Avengers to help him. So he was going to manipulate the reality and pretend to be the scientist. So by pretend to be the scientist and manipulating the realities, he was going to implement some stuff into the reality that can help him to beat whoever this being is that's coming after him. And he goes on to say, my people, for want of more accurate words, are indeed God's Captain Marvel. We would hold reality in our hands. We shape it according to our will. Our power is all intents. His purpose is infinite. My people birthed me and others like me, and shaped a sliver of their power with us, because of silver infinity is still infinity, but our power is not our own. So he's basically talking about his people, and I'm thinking he's talking about the Cosmic Cube Beyonders. He's saying that, not Cosmic Cube Beyonders, the Celestial Beyonders. He's saying that because the Cosmic Cube Beyonders were his equals, the Celestial Beyonders were his superiors that created him, because he said that they shared a power of infinity. So he's saying that they were infinite beings and they shared, a fraction of their power. And even though it's a fraction of their power, they're still infinite beings. So a fraction of infinity is still infinity. That's why I have this infinite power. So he's talking about the Beyonders, saying the Beyonders, the Celestial Beyonders, birth us, and they're doing this, and they're kind of running away from somebody. So there's somebody that actually scales not only above the Beyonder himself, but the Beyonders, and this being is trying to kill him and them, and we find out who it is. I think some of you guys have seen this character before or heard of him. There's one really iconic picture of him, and he is very powerful. I never knew fully about where his power lies, but this story does explain more of how powerful he is. They say before the Omniverse came into being, there was the Lost One. So the Lost One is the guy who's coming after the Beyonders. He's trying to kill the Beyonders. He's trying to kill the Beyonder himself. And he was here before the Omniverse. So he was here before all the universes and all these other realities. So he must be really powerful. If he can kill the Beyonders who already killed the Living Tribunal, and those guys are already ridiculously powerful, and he's scaring them, then he must be really powerful, especially if he's from the beginning. Now, the Lost One, like I said, I've heard he's been pretty powerful. I just didn't know how powerful he was. This does give more of a scope of, his insanity. But why is the Lost One coming after them? Why is he trying to kill them? As the Beyonder goes on, he said, the Lost One created the Beyonders, much like they would later do with me. He imbued them with my power, with the tiniest fraction of his power. He created them with the interest. As my people grew jealous and then resentful, and he watched as they plotted against him. When they attacked, he allowed it to curious to see what would happen. This turned out to be a mistake. So, what is the Lost One? What is he coming after for? What is happening? So he explains that the Lost One is actually the one who created the Beyonders, which is kind of a contradiction, because the Celestials stated that they created the Beyonders, and then they gave the Beyonders enough power to beat them. But now they're stating that the Lost One created the Beyonders, and I guess you could say this is a retcon, because, like I said, it was specifically the Celestials that created them. Now it's him, and he's giving them power. But they do explain a little bit more of where he comes from too. So I guess it might be a retcon, or maybe just they shift the story a little bit differently. Personally, I think it's a retcon. So he now in this story, he created the Beyonders. He gave them a fraction of his power, and even though he gave them a tiny fraction of his power, he still had a high level of infinite power. Like they said, their scaling of infinity is just that he is on a higher level of infinity. So let's just say he's plus 10 infinity. They're most likely plus 6 infinity. Or plus 3 infinity, right? So he gave them a fraction of his power. He's plus 10, and they're plus 3. They're still infinity, but he's leagues of infinite above them. And then they give a fraction of their power to Beyonder, who is 1 infinity, plus 1 infinity. So he just baseline infinity. As this goes on, he says his people got jealous. The Beyonders were created by him. They got jealous of him. They said he has too much power. They kind of got envious, because the Beyonders are kind of they're power hungry. So they revolted against him to try to attack him. And you're probably wondering, how would a being as powerful as him be able to be taken down by his weaker creations? And it was simply because he allowed it, because he wanted to see, he was kind of interested. Like I said, a lot of these cosmic level beings and these conceptual beings, we see events where we're like, they should have been able to handle that easily. But the only reason they don't is they're kind of intrigued and seeing what these people do at these creations, so they do it a lot. He did it, but it was a mistake because it turned against him. As he goes on to say, realizing too late the genuine threat they possess, the Lost One could do as little as they stole the rest of his power. So he fucked around and found out. He let them just do what they wanted. They ended up doing it, and they ended up taking his power, and he just gave up some of his power. Then they ended up taking up too much, to the point where by the time he realized he was in danger, it was too late. He let them just take too much. Once they took all that, they took all of his power, and then afterwards what they did was, unable to kill him, for the Lost One could not be killed, the Beyonders imprisoned him on a moon outside the Omniverse, when he remained until recently, when a single flaw in the design of the prison finally led to its malfunction, and just like that, the Lost One was free. So what happened was, they took almost all of his power. They couldn't kill him. Even with all of his power, they stated that the Lost One is an unkillable being. So some of these higher dimensional beings, they have just high levels or true levels of immortality. So he could not be killed. So the best thing they could do is like, well, if you can't kill an immortal being, what can you do? Imprison him. So they were able to find a moon outside the Omniverse. I don't know how you can have a moon outside the Omniverse, but whatever. It's comics. So they found a moon on the outside of the Omniverse. They trapped him in there and they imprisoned him there. But even though he was depowered and they imprisoned him, the problem for them was the fact that they did have a flaw. They didn't explain what the flaw was, but there was a flaw and he was able to escape. After that, he went on a rampage and started killing people. Said, "My people, omnipotent gods with infinite power, have scattered, terrified of the being who stalks them across the universes." So even the Beyonders, as powerful as they are, even though they took down the Living Tribunal, they did get killed by the Molecule Man when he killed all the other Molecule Mans and absorbed their power. They did get killed by him, so they do have limits. They're not unbelievably powerful. I mean, they are still unbelievably powerful, but not to the point where it seems like no other character can beat them, right? So even with that level of power, he's such a threat that once when he broke out, these guys were shitting themselves. They're like, damn, we took all of his power, we drained him. He's gained back a bit of his power, but not fully, and now he's coming after us, and we're scared. As they're running away and now trying to go there, and as the story, as Beyonders telling the story, there's a girl that shows up to the base and find them. She fought them before. Apparently, she's working for the Lost One. As she goes on to say, "You Beyonder have been careless with your power. You still was able to draw some of it into himself without you even noticing. Enough to hide me. Enough to hide him." So what happened was Beyonder was being a dumbass since he's usually careless with his power. He was using too much, and as he was doing it, since his power comes directly from the Beyonders, where their power directly comes from the Lost One, he was leaking out his energy. As the Lost One saw this, he was able to absorb it since it was his power. He absorbed quite a bit of the power and used that power to hide himself and his assistant, which he gave her power. So if you're probably wondering how she's this powerful, just know that the Lost One gave her some of his infinite power to her too. As she comes after the Beyonder, she starts attacking him. She ends up cutting him, says, "The power you still cannot harm the Lost One thief, and it cannot harm me. Now about that blood," and she cuts him on the cheek. So this is interesting. She starts fighting the Beyonder to take his blood so she can get his power and his essence to give back to the Lost One to get him more powerful. And she says that even with your power, you cannot harm me because that power was from the Lost One. So the power you stole from him, it's his power still. You cannot use his own power against him. So, and since he granted me his power and I'm his assistant and I work for him, it cannot harm me either. So this is crazy. The Celestial, the Lost One, that makes sense why the other Beyonders are scared of him and running away. Because even though they stole his power, he can easily steal his power back because it is his, and also they cannot harm him with his power. That also makes sense why they couldn't kill him. So they can't kill him because they can't really use his own power against him, and they can't, harm him with his own power. They could only steal it and only keep it and trap him. But now that he's out and he's coming after them, they can't really do anything but run and hide and try to trap him again. So she cannot be harmed because she's connected to the Lost One, and the Lost One cannot be harmed because that's directly their power. But she can harm him, and she cut him. Though they do imprison her, the rest of the Avengers, she allows it because she already accomplished her goal, and this helps the Lost One get more power to come there. So he comes down to Earth. Kolora, is your name? Is that you were created by the Celestials and you went on to create the Beyonders, but the Beyonders moved against you and stole your power, erasing you from history. You're here to start to take that power back, but the Beyonders you're looking for is gone. So Black Panther explains here perfectly more of his backstory. We find out, and like I said, there was a bit of a retcon, but I guess you can argue kind of not. But it is a little confusing. He states right here, his name is Kalhora. I'm just going to call him the Lost One. So he says, the Lost One, you were created by the Celestials and went on to create the Beyonders. So technically, it kind of might not be a retcon. That's why I mean it's kind of confusing because because originally what was stated by Kubak to Cosmos was the Beyonder and the Beyonders. Oh no, was it Kubak that stated? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Kubak. One of them stated that the Beyonders or the Celestials created the. No, it was not him. It was the Beyonder himself when he was talking to them. Sorry, I forgot. I'm a little iffy because I've been talking for quite a bit, but what happened when they first revealed it was the Celestials created the Beyonders, and they created them without limits and even strong enough to be able to turn against their own creation, their own creators, right? And that was the story that how the Beyonders got created. But then they turned around and now said, no, the Lost One created the Beyonders, and they stole his power, and that was his power originally. So they probably retconned it to be like, oh, actually, the Celestials didn't create the Beyonders. The Celestials created, the Lost One who created the Beyonders. And the reason why I believe it was the Beyonders is because they said it was the Beyonders, and the image they showed the creature being created was, looked like a Beyonder, and on top of it said multiple. And the Lost One's only one. So I'm guessing the retcon, they minorly retconned it to actually the Celestials created the Lost One. The Lost One created the Beyonders and gave them the power, and they stole his power, and now he's coming after them to get back his power. So this is important once again. Celestials, I 100% want to apologize and say I was wrong on them. I thought they were a lot weaker. A lot of people put them as jobber status, but they're not really jobber status. They're leagues above. The only reason we see them getting jobbed around or beaten around is because they allow it. Is because they're fucking around. Is because they're not actually taking it serious. So I will say this: they are higher tiers of infinity. We don't know how much, but they're definitely above. They're well above the Beyonders, who are above these other dimensional beings. So does this mean they're above the Celestials are above the Living Tribunal? I would say no. I think the reason the Living Tribunal got killed by the Beyonders, there had to be more of a reason why. Like I said, I just haven't really fully read the event to know what happened to that, how that happened, or how that led to be, or was it just bad writing. But by seeing this means that the Beyonders leagues below the Beyonders leagues below the Beyonders, and the Beyonders are leagues below the Lost One, and the Lost One is leagues below the Celestials. So after this, we have him showing his face. His face is damaged and looks pretty bad. It says, "A beautiful god no longer, it seems, as those eyes are gliding with a madness to match their fury. Good thing is I'm not down there right now. Good thing you haven't noticed." So his journey throughout his power being taken, being trapped for so long, and his journey throughout all these universes ended up damaging him and making him looking grotesque. Beyonder literally stated he was actually good looking before, but he ended up looking ugly. So what is happening? Why is the Lost One there with the humans? Why isn't the Beyonder there? Apparently, the Beyonder was asking the humans for help. He said, "I set up everything perfectly for you guys to have advantage and a win against the Lost One to help out." Because you say the Lost One is now coming to threaten the entire multiverse. He was not. He was just coming for them. He lied because he was trying to save his own ass and save his people's ass. So as he was doing that, he tricked the Avengers to helping him out, saying, "I gave you all the abilities to help against him." And the abilities were these crystals that they could form around the planet, and as they do, it would create a barrier that protects them from the Lost One approaching. But that wasn't true. The Beyonder actually created these light to them so he can have the Lost One come to Earth. Once when the Lost One comes to Earth, he has these crystals activate, and once they activate, they actually trap the Lost One in there with the humans. So he was trying to make Earth the new prison for the Lost One to be trapped there. So he kind of did a bitch move and backstabbed them. They were trying to help him out, and he said he got all those things to help them, when in reality it was just to set up these crystals to draw him in there, to trap him in there, and to activate it so he can be stuck there. So that's why he's fighting the humans. He's stuck there with them. And then we transition over to the Beyonder and what happened and how it happened, and we get to see what led up to it, and some interesting information that we get from this. So what happened was, apparently what Beyonder did and to create this barrier, it explains it's actually pretty crazy. He says, "I have achieved what none of you were willing to attempt. The Lost One has escaped his confinement, and while the rest of you scattered and fled, I lured him into another prison, a better prison. A prison walls were powered by 4 of our brethren. You attacked them. You first reduced them to crystalline forms in an attempt to hide them from our sight, and now you keep them prisoner." So what did Beyonder do to create these? Apparently he attacked the Beyonders themselves. He went after 4 of them, and he ended up killing them somehow. For me personally, I don't understand how he would be powerful enough to do that, seeing as how we've been getting all the scaling and power scaling. But maybe there was some reasoning or some context behind it that I just didn't get. So I'll probably... But if he did that, then it's like, well, because I'm doing the whole journey about like how strong he is. I'm surprised I couldn't find the comic book on that. So if you guys can find the comic book on that, if that happened, if you guys seen that already, please like send it to me so I can find it out. Or is it just an event that happened off screen type of thing where it wasn't shown, but until like this story, like it wasn't shown prior to this, but somehow he got the four of the Beyonders, ended up killing them. Once when he killed them, he crystallized them, turned these crystal forms, and then used that to trick the heroes to thinking it was a barrier to keep him out, but it was a barrier to trap him in, and then they put it there. So somehow he was able to kill four of them and create barriers from their own bodies and preserving it there. By doing so, he was able to keep the Lost One trapped inside. So that just shows once again their power. As they go on, say, but you have attacked your fellow Beyonders, condemning them to an eternal life, eternity of living death. You have decided us to cannot trust you. We are taking your power from you. We will be leaving this with conscience, the bloodshed, the meat, and the stars. But we cannot permit the games you play among the stars. We cast you down, Beyonder. So what happened was Beyonder was doing this for them, himself specifically, but for them also. So he trapped them in. He's like, hey, look, I had to do, we had to do some drastic, things to prevent this from happening. So I went and killed them. Yes, it's fucked up, but I killed them and I used them so we can trap him beside, because he would have just ended up killing us all and taking all the power back anyway. So they say, we get it, but we don't fuck with that shit. We don't go and kill our own people. We don't do that stuff. So you've you betrayed our Kree and how we run things. So because of that, we are going to punish you by taking away your power. So they did have the ability to take away the Beyonder's power too, which they did, and they cast him back into the planet. So now he's trapped there, which good for him, because fuck him. That was a bitch move what he did to the Earth and to the humans and stuff, and he kind of deserved it. So they can take his power away, once again showcasing his levels of power and how below he is compared to some of the other higher beings. So as he gets castrated down there, the Lost One is greeting them and says, power has limits. The body I wear, though I fashioned it myself, is still only capable as that which of its design. I first conjured it in eons ago from matter and energy. It was all intents and purposes perfect. I could swim on the surface of a sun. I could fly through a black hole. I could shatter a moon with my fist. And then my power was stolen from me from the beings that I call the Beyonders. So he's basically stating that he explains right here that there, even with all the power there is, there's always limits. So we keep on talking about throughout these videos, like the first one and the second one, about infinity. So we hear these different levels and layers of infinity. But he says even with all these different levels of infinity, there's still limits. It's just that there are higher ceilings for said limits. And he said when he was first forming, he created his body through all these energies, and he was able to create such a perfect body that he could swim through a sun, fly through a black hole, and destroy a moon with a punch, until the Beyonder stole his power. And he's saying this to the rest of the heroes as he killed quite a bit of them. He said, I have been trapped in this body since then, and this body itself has been trapped in while the Beyonders integrated themselves into the grand cosmic tragedy. They think that they are omnipotent. They think my soul power makes them unconquerable, but power has limits. So he says, they stole my power. These Beyonders, they got cocky. They thought that just because they have this much power and they're omnipotent and stuff like that, whatever, that they're have limitless or infinite power, but they do not. Nobody has limitless or infinite power. So once again, he explains that. As this goes on, Captain America is fighting the Lost One, and the Lost One's not able to harm him somehow. And the reason why he's not is Captain America explains that he's drenched in the celestial blood, and saying that he can't harm somebody with celestial blood. So, like I said, the Celestials are way above the Beyonders and the Lost One, because the Lost One's casually, scaring the fuck out of them and killing them, and the Celestial created him and them. So that's how the hierarchy works in this area. So what happens is the Beyonder cannot attack the Beyonders because they gave him their power, so he can't really harm them. And the Beyonders cannot harm the Lost One since he gave them his power to them. But the Lost One also cannot harm the Celestials since he gave them his power. So whenever you see these other guys harm them, like I said, the Celestials are playing around. In their story, apparently the Celestials are really powerful. Like I said, I never thought they were that powerful. especially compared to the Beyonder and stuff. Like the way they showed it, he's intertwined with them because of the creation. He goes on to say once again, power has limits. Even the power of the cosmos has limits. For it's only the power of the cosmos. Will there always be another cosmos? So he's saying even the cosmos has limit. That's why there's multiple cycles, because even as powerful as eternity and all these other things are, and these constructs like abstract beings and these conceptual beings and stuff, as powerful as they all have limits because they will all reach the limit when they die and have to come back again. Even the cosmos constantly dies and comes back, dies and comes back. And then he goes on, finally says, but I shall use this power, my power to give it to by the celestials themselves. I shall hunt down the Beyonders wherever they are and hide. I'll hunt them down and I'll find them, and soon I'll be whole again. But even then I'll be limited, such as the nature of life, the nature of sentence. If you are all limited, if you are heroes, you are. But the extraordinary are too. They are magnificent, they are mighty. You should be proud of them. So he's saying, hey, look, I have no problem with you guys. I'll fix everything up. I'm just going to go after the Beyonders. So his journey to going to kill the Beyonders is not done. He gained some of his power back, and he's telling them, hey, look, the Celestials are more powerful than me. They gave me this power. I'm limited, and every being and everything in this world has limits, no matter how powerful they are. So just be proud of who you are and what you guys have been able to accomplish, especially with your limits. Also, I didn't show any images, but there. This is where last time we see the Beyonder, and what I mean by that is the Beyonder actually dies. So since the Beyonder was depowered and thrown back down there and into the earth with the rest of the heroes, as they started fighting, the last one ended up killing the Beyonder. He actually obliterates the Beyonder and disintegrates him. And even though he brought back everybody else from the dead, he doesn't bring the Beyonder himself back. He just brings back the humans killed, but not him, because, well, he kind of, was doing some sneaky shit, and he doesn't have any sympathy for any of the Beyonder beings. So he ended up killing him. So that was the last time we've seen Beyonder at this point. Obviously, his comics, he's going to come back at some point somehow, but the Beyonder is dead at this point from what I've been able to find. But yeah, so that was the end of the Beyonder's power. It's pretty ridiculous. He is very interconnected with the cosmology and the hierarchy of Marvel itself. There's a lot of interesting things with his power. He's very powerful, if I'm being honest. If you guys want me to do a conclusion video to talk more about my thoughts, specifically just about where I would place him, I could do that, but I think I've talked quite a bit in the first video, and especially in this video, about how powerful he is. And I do want to say this, a lot of people have been saying that there have been a retcon for like a Beyonder. I don't know what they mean by a retcon, because unlike DC, where DC, when they go through the stories, they keep on DC writes a bunch of stories, and a lot of the stories end up getting convoluted. And when they get convoluted, they realize that, hey, look, this is getting confusing. We're getting a lot of contradictions. A lot of shit doesn't make sense. So we're just going to have a crisis event. And when they have this crisis event, those are made to destroy everything so they can reshape it into the ways they want. So basically, the writers and the editors and the people who own DC are like, look, we fucked up too much. We've been doing too much. So we need to create some BS event that basically ends up destroying everything, so we can have an in-universe explanation on why things have changed completely. Whereas Marvel, they do have a Secret War story event, but Marvel doesn't do that. They don't do the same thing as DC where they end everything. They do have this ending of a cycle of a universe and reopening a new universe, but that is always connected to the continuity, and it doesn't shift it completely. So the way Marvel does the thing where they change it, instead of doing a crisis event that does it, they technically usually just go through the same timeline. They just retcon things, though. They retcon things here and there. Instead of just completely saying, hey, let's wipe everything off the board and let's make something completely new, Marvel says, hey, let's retcon it here and there. But I hear people keep on saying that they retconned. At some point, they retconned like quite a bit of the characters' powers, like the Beyonder, Molecule Man, and Doctor Strange are usually the ones that I hear mostly being stated to have been retconned and the reason why the retcon was their previous iterations were way too powerful, they're way too godlike, and they were way too unbelievable. So to the point where basically the writers are like, we need to change this up. So unlike DC, they couldn't just completely revamp everything. They had to just retcon and change things here and there. And they retconned them to make them weaker. But after reading all this stuff, the Beyonder didn't seem to be retconned to be made weaker. It was just that he was retconned where he was lower in the scaling of the power scaling. Clearly, when they first showed him, he was saying that he and Molecule Man were the one and two strongest beings in the universe. Clearly, that statement about them being that strong was just, you know, them not understanding truly the cosmology and the scope of the realm they're in. You know, so I think that's why I think a lot of people get confused. They think that, oh, see, they were used to be the most powerful being in the universe. I think the reason they were the most powerful being in the universe was because Marvel at that time didn't get enough time to explain the cosmology and the hierarchy enough. They didn't get to reveal it. So it wasn't like a retcon. I think it was more like they didn't get time to reveal the story. And I can see why they're saying that it feels like a retcon, because it does feel like he's weaker, because before he was dominant, he was a threat, but now he's getting bodied by anybody. Molecule Man's stronger than him. The Beyonders are stronger than him. The Cosmic Cube complete creatures are stronger than him. The Lost One is stronger than him. The Celestials are stronger than him. The pure Phoenix Force is stronger than him. The other higher dimensional beings are stronger than him. It's like now there's so many beings that are way past his power, and now it's like, well, he used to be one of the most powerful, and now he's like below and keeps on going down lower. But for me, personally, I don't think they made him weaker, because he still has the same level of powers and feats. It's just the other characters are scaled higher or have been explained more thoroughly and properly, so we see more of their actual power come to the surface. So I don't think he's been retconned. I disagree with that sentiment. But like I said, I've been through enough of this. I think you guys are kind of getting annoyed of hearing me talk at this point. So I just want to say thank you to all of you guys for, you know, checking out my videos. I'm close to getting 500 subscribers. I can't wait until I hit that mark. It's going to take some time to edit this video, so hopefully by then I'm already at there. But if I'm not, still thank you to you guys for, you know, viewing my videos, liking, sharing, you know, subscribing to my shit. I just really appreciate it. This was quite a bit of stuff. Sorry for that once again. But if you guys want me to do a full conclusion to talk about his power, I can. All I'm just going to say is I would put a place Beyonder in terms of speed, strength, durability, attack potency, his ability, reality warping, and all of his abilities at infinite level, but at infinite one. Like I said, there's different stages of infinity. I think he is at the lowest level of infinity, at the baseline level of infinity, which is just 1 times infinity. But still, 1 times infinity is still infinity. So he's still way more powerful than majority of characters. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned for next time.